when their world has been turned into a brutal
But
hellscape.
these kids said that they know how to find items to barter at weapon shops and how to use medicine packs to heal zombie bites.
The games make it all seem deceptively simple. I mean, in the future, a kid's not going to be able to kill a 6-foot-long irradiated beetle just by pressing a few buttons. And he's going to have to get down there with an axe and hack and hack and hack.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. Welcome to the program. The phones are open if you want to join us. And the number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here in the studio tonight, you've got Ian,
Aria,
and Conan.
Coming up, the World Economic Forum has 8 predictions that they made, apparently back in 2016.
Oh, yeah.
Conan, you've dug that list up, and we're just going to take a look at it and see how those predictions are coming along, because we know the World Economic Forum is one of those groups of power mongers,
Powerful elite that think they know better than the rest of us.
Yeah, and of course they had the vision, the sort of famous line that you also brought up again here to talk about tonight, Conan, the idea that you'll own nothing by the year 2030 and you'll be happy.
That's what they tell us.
If they have their way.
And it seems to me that when it comes to the millennials and the Zoomers, some of them, they love to tout how happy they are living in their little apartments, and they rent everything, and they are living. They usually these are urbanites that live in.
I mean, with a lot of these people, that's just sort of like a coping mechanism, right? I mean,
they're lying to themselves.
Yeah,
this is the whole tiny house movement argument that I hate. I cannot stand tiny houses. You know how I feel about it.
Well, before we get into the depressing World Economic Forum stuff, or maybe it won't be depressing. I don't know. We'll see how their predictions.
Like I said, some people are lying to themselves, and they're convincing themselves that living in a little pod and eating bugs is good.
We do have a little bit of good news that I want to share with you here. There's been some very interesting polling numbers that we've been sharing over the last couple of nights, and one of them recently was that the trust in the Supreme Court, this was a few nights ago that we shared this one, right after you guys finished up at Forkfest, I think was the night we came back. Trust in the Supreme Court has dropped to, I believe, an all-time low since Gallup has been asking the question, and it is down to about 25% of Americans have either a great deal or quite a lot of trust in the Supreme Court as an institution. But I found myself asking while we were discussing that, well, what about Congress? What about the rest of them? How bad are they doing? Because we've certainly seen Congress go down into the single digits in the past. Where are they at now?
You mean as far as like congressional approval rating?
Correct.
Isn't that
it's
always
like 10%?
Yeah, isn't that always in like 10 to 20%?
Yeah, and it's lower than 10 now. So that's the other good news that I wanted to bring you tonight.
And yet, 99% of these people, I don't remember the exact statistic, but almost all of them will be reelected.
Yep. That is probably also a true statement. But that said, the Gallup survey looking at what they call confidence in major U.S. institutions has come out, and basically every single category has dropped multiple percentage points in just the last year alone. So looking at Congress, it is at the bottom of the barrel of all the different things they ask people about. And they've got like over a dozen different categories here. Congress is at the bottom. Last year it was a 12% approval rating, or confidence rating. This is how much confidence they have. So so just to be clear, it's 12% of Americans have either a great deal or quite a lot of confidence. So there's two different categories together. Only adds up to 7% now here in 2022. So dropping from 12% to 7%.
Imagine this is like
cockroaches.
Yeah, imagine this is like a restaurant, right? And you have like a 7% confidence that they're going to get your meal correct, right?
You're out of business.
You would have been out of business many years ago. Long time ago.
None of us would go to that restaurant, and yet Congress continues unimpeded with their 7% trust rating.
So there's other things they asked about in this survey. It's not just government. They asked about sort of generic categories like television news, down from 16% to 11%. 11% of Americans have either a great deal or quite a lot of confidence.
See, those numbers are still too high, though.
Still, that's better than I would expect.
1 in 10 Americans still trust the news. What? How? Well, have they not been paying any attention whatsoever through COVID-19 and the regurgitation of state lies?
You still have a lot of old people.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm sure they've got a demographic breakdown here. I have not gotten to that part of the survey. Just looking at the overall, just a drop between last year and this year. You've got, by the way, the average, according to Gallup, this is a Gallup survey, the average in U.S. institutions, all of them together, is at a new low. So all of these things that I'm about to go through this list, I'll tell you all of them here because it's all pretty interesting. Big business. I'm going from the bottom to the top. Okay, so Congress is at the bottom. TV news just above Congress at 11%, 7% for Congress. Big business holding on with 14% of people in the United States, but down from 18 last year.
What do they mean by big business?
Mega corporations, right?
Like
Walmarts and
those. Okay.
Sorts. The criminal justice system.
See, that should be at the lowest. Like if the
You still have too many Blue Lives Matter.
yeah,
Not
but
that many though. With now the blue lives are going to come later. Okay, they're still toward the top. That's a whole.
So they
other,
have trust in the criminal justice. They have trust in the police, but not the criminal justice system.
That's right.
Okay, so they're just clueless.
That makes sense.
Not very good continuity here as far as people's line of thought, but I'll take what I can get, okay?
Sure.
And so going down, by the way, 6 percentage points in just the last year. The criminal justice system at 20% in 2021 and now 14% in 2022. Again, people with either a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in that. Newspapers, which are dying anyway, down from 21% to 16%, so a 5 percentage point drop.
I can count the people who get newspapers on my route on one hand.
Wow, your mail route.
On my mail route. I mean, it's just it's dead. More people get People magazine than they get newspapers.
Amazing. The presidency just above newspapers at 23%, down from 38%. So of all of the changes, of all the drops that these different categories have seen, the presidency saw the largest drop, down 15 percentage points from 38 to 23%.
Is this year over year, or are they looking?
This is just last year to this year. That's it.
See, I would have expected it to drop down as soon as Biden took office, because Trump, despite all of his failings, he was not a babbling he was a babbling incoherent lunatic, but he was not.
But he was a funny, babbling, incoherent lunatic.
Yeah, he wasn't senile. That's what I'm looking for.
The U.S. Supreme Court, just above the presidency, as we mentioned, down to 25%, which is, I believe, a record low for the Supreme Court. Large technology companies, so Facebook and Microsoft and mega big tech corporations like that, at a 26%, say they either have a great deal or quite a lot.
And yet everyone uses them still.
Yeah,
and they don't. This is kind of like government. I mean, they look at these lows. Look at this. Like you said, Arya. I mean, if any restaurant behaved this way, they would have gone out of business. But these people, they hold in there. I can understand Facebook. I mean, everyone's going to say they hate Facebook, and then they're still on it looking at cat memes.
I mean, Microsoft, though, Windows dominates the PC sphere, and it's not going away anytime soon. As much as I hate Windows, there are things that I need to do that require me to use Windows. So it's like,
well, you can use their product without having trust in them, right?
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
Banks. Next up on the list, I don't know if I mentioned, large technology companies are at 26%, down from 29%. Again, this is the amount of Americans who have either a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in these institutions. Banks with 27%, down from 33%. Organized labor stayed steady at 28%. That's the only one that didn't drop down.
Organized labor?
Yeah, so labor unions.
I'm still trying to figure out how anyone in the United States that was born after 1980 has any faith whatsoever in banks.
It's 1 out of 4, basically.
They've just screwed us over our entire lives for the last 40-something years.
I guess.
Yeah, but your local credit union, where you got your checking account, I've never been screwed over by them. I have pretty good faith in even though they went big tech a couple of years ago, they merged with the bigger entity, which I didn't care much for. I've never been screwed over by my credit union.
I don't know if I would consider a credit union to be a bank. I mean, they serve the same purpose, but they have different rules and different methods of operating.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's a good question, and it's not clear if they also.
I think people are just they're answering the phone. They're going down the list real quick. Mm-hmm. Are you happy with these people or not? And everyone's just mad right now. I mean, these numbers might be bad. not because they actually even know what the answer means. They just hear Zuckerberg's a bad dude. I hate Facebook. They're on Facebook. I hate Facebook. I mean, everyone's mean right now. Everyone's in an angry situation.
Well, we're going to go to the top of the list here. Banks are a little more than halfway up the list. So organized labor will tell you what comes next here as we get closer to what category is at the top. You guys want to take a guess?
Cats. Everyone loves their cats.
No, these are institutions, Conan.
Cats are an institution.
What's the top institution?
I'll give it some thought.
All right, more coming up here in moments. You can join us as well. It's Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means, stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to MyMagicMud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. MyMagicMud.com, FTL20.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join the show here talking about Americans and their confidence in major U.S. institutions. We're not just talking about governments here, also corporations, banks. We're going to get to some of the other ones like the military and the police. Unfortunately, they're at the top of the list.
Yeah,
so,
I was just going to say that.
Not a lot of consistency here in Americans' beliefs. So, like, for instance, the criminal justice system, Americans say 14% of them say they have either a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in that particular institution, down from 20%. So I'd like to see those numbers going down.
I would like to see the inverse as well. Like, how many of them have absolutely no faith in these institutions, or are convinced that these institutions are hopelessly corrupt or hopelessly evil?
Apparently, they were not given the option of no faith. According to the study, the options were either a great deal, quite a lot, some, or very little. However, I don't have that data in front of me right now, but that is an interesting question. We'll get into your calls as well. Don't forget, you can join us online anytime you want. Just go to social.freetalklive.com for our social media site. If you're sick and tired of big tech corporations like most of America at this point, only 26% saying that large technology companies have their confidence. If you're sick of it and you want to use an alternative, we've got our own social media site. It's social.freetalklive.com. Let's go to David calling us, listening in Fort Smith to KFPW. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, you kind of touched on it when you said that there's people that say they hate Facebook, but yet they're still on it.
Yep.
And with Congress's low rating, there's an old saying, everyone hates Congress but loves their congressperson.
God.
Yeah, this is true.
And so
why do people love
reelect them?
If by the way, even if they can even name their congressperson, most people don't know they're city council members of their own little town they live in, let alone their congressperson.
I can't name any of those things.
Go ahead, David.
When they go to vote, and then what they see on the top of the ballot is incumbent. So it's the person already in office. Oh, well, if they're in there, I guess they're doing a good job.
Yeah, that and whether there's a D or an R next to their name.
Does it list incumbents on ballots? I didn't think so.
There may be some states that do. I don't know. That's a good question.
Ours does in Arkansas.
Wow, that's amazing.
And, but I called. I mean, my two senators are Tom Cotton and then Bozeman. And, I called Bozeman's office not too long ago because I kept getting these flyers in the mail before the election that had him in all the camo gear and everything, duck hunting. And
how did that go?
I called his office. Huh?
How did that go?
When you called?
Well, it went pretty, they kind of have the scripted answers. I didn't get to speak to John Bozeman himself.
Of course not.
I spoke to one of the staffers. And of course I told him and said, hey, here's the deal, I get it. You're a congressman, you're a senator for the state of Arkansas, and everybody in Arkansas likes to hunt. You got a bunch of rednecks down here, but some of us do know that the Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting. It's got everything to do with being able to resist a tyrannical government. And it says that government is not supposed to infringe on our rights, and we should have a well-powered militia. And anyway.
So basically, you called the congressperson, a staff member answered the phone, you told them your thoughts on, the right to bear arms, and they said, thanks for your comments, and then hung up the phone, right? That's pretty much how it went?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But it was funny because I told him, I said, I said, here's the thing about Bozeman this year in this election. I said, how come Tom Cotton is campaigning for Bozeman? How come Sanders, that the governor is campaigning for Bozeman? How come it is that all these other people are campaigning for Bozeman? I want to hear from Bozeman.
And is Bozeman a Republican or a Democrat? I don't know anything about these guys.
He's a Republican. They're both Republicans.
Well, I mean, wouldn't the Republicans campaign for each other? I mean, that seems pretty standard, right?
I mean, look at all the people Trump is touting about.
Well, you don't normally see that, I say, it's a state election for a national representation, right, with the House of Representatives and Senate, but I've never seen it like that before. Bozeman is the senior representative, the senior senator. He's been in the Senate longer than Cotton has.
You're saying it's unusual. You feel like it's unusual for all these other Republicans to be campaigning for the guy that's been in the longest? Is what you're saying?
Well, and not necessarily the longest, but what I'm saying is, I want to hear Bozeman tell me why I need to vote for Bozeman instead of Tom Cotton.
Well, you know he's just going to lie to you too. So I mean, it's not like it's going to make any difference.
But Tom Cotton, I believe, is seen more favorable than Bozeman.
I see. So you think they're putting him out as the front man?
I mean, Tom Cotton is definitely a name that I've heard of, and I've never heard of Bozeman, right? Tom Cotton has made a name for himself. I would suggest that, he's not a good senator by any means.
There's no good senators. I mean, maybe Rand Paul. Maybe.
Well,
on some days.
Well, Rand Paul, he'll throw it right at Fauci and all these other guys. I love watching Rand Paul get in.
David, thanks for the call tonight. I do appreciate your thoughts. I appreciate your reaching out here tonight. The number here is 603-283-6160. He had called and I don't need to go on the air. I'm like, yeah, we'd like you to go on the air, please. That's kind of what we do here. Let's go to Stephen in Georgia, also calling from the South. What's going on down there, Stephen?
Not a whole lot. Yesterday, people were like, "Oh, we all hate the government," and now they're just like, "We love Marjorie Taylor Greene."
Oh God!
So it's not the same as it always is, right?
So it's the same thing you were pointing out, is that they hate Congress, but they love their congressperson, right?
Well, so
well, I don't. I hate my Congress people.
Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene is kind of like she's Trump in a skirt, right? And a whole lot more annoying with no business experience. But she lives in my district rather. And she's a pretty hateful individual. And I don't know, I hate her. But here's my prediction for the top of your list, or here's what I think should be the top of your list rather. The Secretary of State / the CIA DIA.
Just to clarify, you're referring to the list we started the show out with, which is a Gallup survey of Americans' confidence in major U.S. institutions. They don't really get, I would say, as far as specificity, we don't get anything more than just the police. So the CIA isn't really
intelligence agencies should definitely be on that list because, I mean, I think that would be curious.
Yeah, it would be an interesting result,
especially considering all the TV programming that's on right now.
We got
the secret agent. Who's this? What's his? Jack Reacher. That's the one.
Jack Reacher.
They've redone him, and he's a new. It's Netflix.
Okay,
I think it is.
Jack Ryan. CIA, wasn't he like?
This is another character.
Oh, okay, different Jack. Yeah. They're all named Jack.
But yeah, people love those shows.
Sure they do. And they're straight propaganda.
Yes.
Like literally edited by the CIA and the FBI.
No, literally, yes. Project Mockingbird is still good to go.
Ongoing. Stephen, I don't know if you got to the point you were trying to make, so stand by. We'll bring you back for that. We still have about 6 more categories, I think, here that we haven't touched on as far as what do Americans believe. Are they confident in these major U.S. institutions? Overall, not so much. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nina Maria Potts with the latest world news. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is clinging to power after a tumultuous day in politics. Chancellor Rishi Sunak and Health Secretary Sajid Javid dramatically resigned from cabinet within minutes of each other. A number of junior government members have also resigned. Many believe this is the beginning of the end for Boris Johnson. Health Secretary Sajid Javid sent a letter to Boris Johnson saying he can no longer serve the Prime Minister in good conscience. Moments later, Chancellor Rishi Sunak also resigned. He said his and the Prime Minister's approaches are fundamentally too different. This comes after it was revealed that Boris Johnson knew about complaints made over disgraced MP Chris Pincher's behaviour, despite promising to not have been aware before appointing him as the Deputy Chief Whip. Former Cabinet Secretary Michael Heseltine, who resigned from Margaret Thatcher's government in 1986, says Boris Johnson must now go.
But this is the end. Let me give you an example of the mood. I went to a public event in London this week. 12 people came up to me and said, what on earth is going to happen to the Tory party? It was like a sort of that awful moment when you have a boil before it bursts. The boil has now burst.
Lord Gavin Barwell was Chief of Staff to former British Prime Minister Theresa May and says it will be impossible for Boris Johnson to recover from the blows unleashed by the resigning members of its cabinet on Tuesday.
Millions of people in this country have been wondering how cabinet ministers have been able to go along with all of this, and at last two of them have seen sense, in my opinion, and said enough is enough. It may take a few days, it may take a few weeks, it may even take a few months. But yes, I think it is definitely the end.
The death toll in the Independence Day shooting in Chicago has risen to 7 after a parade goer succumbed to their injuries in hospital. Meanwhile, police have revealed that the suspect, 21-year-old Robert Crimo, was known to them and had been reported by family members over his threats to commit acts of violence. Our US correspondent Simon Marks reports.
Police say Crimo planned the attack for weeks, and one of the reasons they could identify him so rapidly was because he was already known to them. Christopher Covelli with the Lake County Sheriff's Department.
A family member reported that Crimo said he was going to kill everyone, and Crimo had a collection of knives. The police responded to his residence. The police removed 16 knives, a dagger, and a sword from Crimo's home.
But officers concluded they had no cause to arrest him. Crimo went on to purchase 2 assault rifles and a set of pistols legally in the Chicago area and to plan the deadly July 4th assault. I'm Simon Marks in Washington.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Phones are open and you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. Before we get into the World Economic Forum and their likely depressing predictions that Conan's going to share with us coming up, we got the good news that we've been talking about here with Americans not being very confident at all in major U.S. institutions.
Burn it down, people. It's time.
I don't think they're quite to that point yet, but certainly they are frustrated with Congress weighing in with just 7% of Americans saying they have either a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in that institution, and big business at 14%, newspapers at 16%, presidency at 23%, Supreme Court 25%. All these numbers are down, by the way, from just 2021. So in just a year's time, many of these organizations or these institutions have lost several percentage points. Some, like the presidency and the Supreme Court, have lost double digits of percentage points in just the last year. And we're working our way towards the top of the list. And I asked you guys earlier, what do you think the top of the list? What is the institution, quote unquote?
Teachers.
That one's coming up, kinda.
Public education
schools.
In general.
Yeah, public schools is coming up.
These people, I'm assuming, attended public education, so they don't necessarily see the problems with it.
That's a good point.
But I will also predict that their numbers are down this year as well.
Everything's down except for organized labor. Yeah, that's flat at a 0. Their belief in organized labor is flat at 28%, totaling saying that they have either a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in that. But we'll finish up the list here in just a moment. Stephen is on the line in Georgia, and you had some thoughts you wanted to share. Go ahead, Stephen.
So, as we gear up to get into World War III here, question for you guys. Can you think of any time that we've gone to war with a country, like we've attacked them or they've attacked us, where 20 years or 40 years beforehand, we didn't give them weapons and training?
Well, I'm not real. I don't understand I don't know what was going on 20 years in Vietnam or previously. That would be. But someone was giving them arms.
Wasn't the French involved?
I think the French, yeah. Which was probably using our money.
I mean, I think I know where you're going with this. Go ahead.
We trained. You have to remember, in World War II, we trained the Vietnamese and the Koreans as a backup plan to fight the Japanese alongside us.
Well, I didn't train them.
Well, yeah, none of us were alive at the time.
But I mean, that's how the war machine works. I mean, it's supposed to be continual. It's supposed to be never ending. We're always at war with Eurasia, and there's always a country to be training, to be sending armaments to, and our specialists going over there and training them how to use it. And then, cross our fingers, if we play the cards right, we'll be fighting them in 20 years, and no one will remember that we trained them. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't think
that's a great point.
I mean, it's definitely Ukraine right now, right? That's who the U.S. is arming, and that's who they're training. Give it 20 more years, and the United States will be fighting Ukraine.
Let's hope the United States doesn't exist in 20 more years. But yes,
I hope not.
If the pattern holds, then
does anyone even remember 6 months ago Ukraine was a bad place?
Yeah, that's right.
Everyone was, even their supporters, in the media, were coming out talking about how corrupt Ukraine was. I don't even remember anymore. And all of a sudden now they're the good guys.
Stephen, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate the point you tried to make there, and definitely appreciate hearing from you. The number is 603-283-6160. So back to the story here from Gallup. This is their poll that they've been doing, by the way, since 1979. And so when you look at the numbers they've been giving us here so far have just been 1 year to the next. So we've been looking at the drop that they've seen from 2021 to 2022.
I want to see those 79 numbers. I want to see the drop from 79.
Yeah,
that'd be really neat.
They're not giving those for all the categories, but the drop overall, I do have that. 1979, it was 48% of Americans have confidence. This is the average confidence. This is adults in the U.S. who have either a great deal or quite a lot of confidence across the institutions. So the average of all of those institutions in 1979, it was 48%. That has dropped every year, but overall in the last 50 years or 40-something years is dropped down to 27% now. So it's dropped over 20 percentage points from where it was.
Interesting.
A few decades ago.
So even 50 years ago, 40-something years ago, people were not confident in U.S. organizations.
All the institutions averaged together, correct.
Less than half.
And so, yeah, and now it's worse than ever with, so far when we've been going through this list, and we've gone through more than half of them, most of them have less than a quarter, I would say, or close to less than a quarter of people are confident. You got the U.S. Supreme Court in at 25%, the presidency at 23%, newspapers 16%, criminal justice system at 14%, and big business at 14%, television news 11%, and Congress at 7%. So continuing and going up the list here, we've got the public schools at 28% with either a great deal or quite a lot of confidence, down from 32%, so 4 percentage point drop there. And again, they don't break out teachers per se, so let's just presume that's all wrapped in there. Just above the public schools, the church or organized religion.
Interesting.
At 31%, down from 37% of Americans. So that's a pretty big drop. And again, just 1 year's time.
Is science and technology in there anywhere?
It's not. But the medical system is here, and that's what's next on the list at 38%, down from 44%. So the belief in the medical system has suffered in just the last year, presumably the COVID response and all the insanity about that factored in. And then we get to the top three. So we're now the remaining three categories of U.S. institutions.
See, I would have guessed military as being the top, but we sort of given it away at this point. I mean, I don't know if they are the top, but I wouldn't have even considered them.
But they're close.
Until someone else brought it up.
Yeah, I mean, even the left like military for whatever reason.
Well, because they're protecting the heroes in Ukraine.
The military, of course, has a ton of propaganda. We were just talking about the police shows, the police television shows.
By the
think
way,
about all the war movies.
The two Jacks. It's Jack Reacher, who is a
what show is this?
He's a military. He's an ex-military intelligence, and then Jack Ryan is the CIA analyst, and they're both the Jack Ryan one is gross. I can kind of watch the Reacher ones because it's like an ex dude, and he's just kind of he's just investigating crime and stuff. And it's more interesting, more believable.
What show is this?
Jack Ryan, Jack Reacher.
That's the name of the show?
That's not the name of it, right?
Yeah, it is, I think.
Oh, really?
Okay.
So anyway, the police are next up on the list here with 45%.
Good Lord, it jumps up a lot.
Yeah, so medical system 38%, police at 45%. Now they're down from 51% in 2021, so down 6 points in just the last year with either a great deal or quite a lot of confidence.
So it's roughly the same number as cops who beat their wives? That's how many people currently support the police? That seems about right.
Those are only the cops that we know beat their wives.
Fair point, yeah.
So then you got the military with a solid 64% of Americans believing in the military. Down, though, 5 points. It was 69% in 2021, so 64%. But again, the military's got even better propaganda than the police do because, military movies, you generally don't get corrupt military leader storylines. It's usually just the heroes going to save the good guys from the bad guys, right? Like that's pretty much what you get with the U.S.
I don't know that there are any. I don't know that there are any corrupt military.
It's pretty rare.
It's rare. I mean, but corrupt cop shows
all over the place. Yeah. And of course, people have interactions with the police. That taints how people feel about the police because if you've actually had a bad interaction with a cop, you're going to feel differently about the.
Can I tell you something?
Of course.
I was in the military.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you know who we all hated universally?
The military police.
All A-hats. I mean, every single one of them A-hats. I mean, even the military, we knew what was up.
Yeah. So there's just too much propaganda. The military aren't occupying the streets of the United States. The police do that. So the police
For now.
Yeah, right. So we still haven't gotten to the number one category. What is it that Americans trust greater than the military?
You said cats aren't on this list.
No. There's more coming up. I don't think you're going to guess this one.
NASA?
It's not government. More coming up.
Are you a sneezer? If you're not, can you get close to one? I don't literally mean someone sneezing. Sneezer, as defined by marketing guru Seth Godin, is an opinion leader. When a sneezer mentions something, other people catch what Godin calls the idea virus. Seth Godin says some people are more likely to tell their friends about a great new idea. So identifying and courting sneezers is a key success factor for idea merchants. His book, Unleashing the Idea Virus, is the most downloaded ebook in history, and you can download the whole book free. That's how he's making his idea contagious. Click tips, tricks, and other stuff to help you cut through the clutter at www.survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Free Talk Live.
Welcome to the world's most powerful spells by High Priestess Catherine Oles. Now, this is kind of like a lot of those religions where you can just sort of just name yourself whatever you want to, right?
Right,
Like
exactly.
Super Wizard.
Right there at the top. Wait, 1 year unconditional money back guarantee. So, like, if your spell fails over the course of the year, oh, the tumor came back.
Here are the terms. You must give the spell time to work. This time frame is 120 days from the date of purchase. That's
4 months.
A request made.
I don't even want the lover back after 4 months.
You must allow for time for a full energy exchange. Sometimes our spells take time. Must not be that powerful. Why can't I upgrade? I mean, she charges $97. Oh, wait, no.
There's a sale that ends tonight at midnight.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join the show here. The number is 603-283-6160. Americans are sick and tired, apparently, of quite a few of the U.S. institutions, the bulk of them below 40%. We're on a list of, 15 of them maybe, from Gallup, who's been doing the survey about these institutions for something like 40 years. Overall confidence, that is to say Americans who say they have either a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in these institutions, has dropped over 20 percentage points since the survey began in 1979, when it was 48% of Americans with either of the top two categories of confidence, down now to 27%. And
I know it's going to be obvious when you say it, but I cannot think of what the most trusted institution is.
It's really a trick question.
Like, what about charitable organizations like the Salvation Army or something?
You're getting a little closer. It's kind of a trick question. The number one most trusted, most confident, as far as Americans' confidence, quote-unquote institution is small business.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's understandable.
Yeah, so they had asked about big business earlier, and big business, again, was one of the bottom three at 14% of Americans having either a great deal or quite a lot of confidence. By contrast, small business, 68% of Americans have either a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in their neighbors.
Which happen to be drying up left and right as we speak, retiring and no one's taken over, or they're turning in the franchise, wings of a franchise, or,
Have you seen that happening specifically? Because I know the Japanese steakhouse is closing here in Keene.
That's because they were stealing their employees' tips, though.
Oh, is that why? I didn't know anything about why.
We lost our Keene buffet like 6-7 years ago.
Yeah. They'd been stealing people's hours, recording them incorrectly, and stealing their tips for years now. They've been repeatedly sued by the Department of Labor. Not that I'm a fan of the Department of Labor, but like Kodo Steakhouse here in Keene, they were up to some really shady stuff. That's why they're closed.
You just never hear about. We're not losing our Walmart or our Home Depot or Target.
Has a Walmart ever gone out of business?
Sure.
They must have.
There have been populations where there have been population decline, and look at the malls.
Okay. Yeah, I guess population decline, like if there's no one to shop there, the Walmart is going to go out of business.
We've certainly seen big boxes go out under, right? Like JCPenney, for instance.
Blockbuster.
Blockbuster's completely
but
gone.
That's a whole different argument.
Sears barely exists. Kmart's down to 3 stores at this point. Of course, those have been outcompeted by other mega corporations. Though small business is down from their 70% of Americans saying in 2021 that they have either a great deal or quite a lot. So down 2 points. So again,
how do you not trust your local mom and pop, though, right?
I mean,
you just explained it. They got this steakhouse that's stealing their employees' wages.
2 points is barely statistically significant. I mean, that's not really even worth talking about as far as a reduction is concerned. It's also the second lowest reduction on this list. So again, organized labor was flat at a 0-point reduction.
But you're right, Ari. It's just the same reason people like the military. It's they've been trained. They've been told by everyone that if you're going to support anybody in the community, buy local.
Well, I mean,
which, by the way, I hate that stupid myth. Don't buy local. Buy the best price. Buy the best product.
Buy the best service as well.
Exactly.
Sometimes you want to pay more to get good service, and in a lot of cases, that's what you're going to get from a local business. You will likely pay more if it's the same product, but you will probably have somebody who's an expert in whatever it is that you're talking about. Not always.
I am more interested in buying the best price and the best product. I don't really care if I'm buying from China. I kind of do. I mean, and just saying that, I just realized there's so much crap I've bought from China that just breaks in the first 6 months. In
general, I want the best product, right? And I'm willing to pay more for that if I think it's worth it. And as Ian mentioned, it's the locally owned places. They're the ones with the expert. Like when I had to buy a bike or a bicycle, I didn't go to Walmart to buy one, right? There's multiple bicycle shops here in Keene. I went to the one that I think we have
I think we have a third one now.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, these places are all over.
It's the culture. I mean, we live in a very
bikeable town.
Very bikeable town, exactly.
But I made the mistake to go to Walmart when I bought my bike 15 years ago or whatever, and it wasn't even put together correctly. I had to return it. And then I tried again, and they failed on the second one as well. And then I was like, you know what? Why am I not at a local shop? And so I did go to a local shop and got great service and kept coming back for more than a decade till they finally went out of business.
That's unfortunate.
But I think it was just, dude retired or whatever and closed his doors. I don't think it was because they were unsuccessful, because they seemed to be quite successful. But anyway, so small business, they're at the top of the list, and there you have it. Overall reductions. People are not trusting these institutions. Will this translate into anything? I mean,
No.
It's really interesting to look at it and to cheer it on and to say, go Americans. People are at least aware that there's some serious problems out there, but do they know what to do about it?
No, they don't.
What can we do? What can people do about it?
Well, in my opinion, you can reject the institutions as much as possible, right? Like, so some of them you can refuse to do business with. It's getting easier to stop doing business with banks. For instance, you can look into alternatives like cryptocurrency or gold and silver, like the gold back. Obviously, things like the criminal justice system, if they want to mess with you, they're gonna do that.
Unfortunately.
You can certainly avoid bigger businesses. You don't have to watch television news.
You can get your kids out of school.
You can. That's one of the best things you can do. Absolutely. And you recently planted a garden, Aria, and you're reaping the benefits from that. So that's less trust in the big mega corporations as far as providing you food. So there are some things you can do individually, but obviously the state is the biggest problem on this list, because when it comes to businesses, you get to choose. You don't have to go to Walmart if you don't want to. You don't have to go to a local business if you don't want to. That's the freedom of that choice. But when it comes to the state, they force their services, so-called, down our throats, and they will use violence to force us into their systems. Doesn't matter.
Which is, with the exception of the military, why it's probably the lowest on the list. Because people realize they don't know how to get out of it. Nope. They realize they're stuck. They realize they're slaves. They're prisoners to the system, and they hate it. They hate the system, but they don't know what to do about it.
Yeah, they think they can vote their way out. I think a lot of people still believe in they still believe in the system enough to think that they can make changes by just voting for the other party. Their tribe. But then again, 7% say that they've got the trust in Congress. So it's like, on one hand, they realize the problem. On the other hand, they don't know what the solution is, and they're not seeing libertarianism as the solution. At least we can extrapolate from what people did under the COVID regimes and mandates. They seem to be, doing what they are told, even though they don't trust these people. 7% of Americans saying they have a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in Congress. They don't trust these people, but yet they do what they're told. And so until people are willing to stop obeying and stop doing what these thugs and these liars and these criminals are telling them to do, whether it be to obey them or to pay them or whatever hoop jumping we're talking about, they're never going to stop. Because why would the criminal enterprise stop doing what they're doing if they're getting near to complete compliance from the people they're dominating? It's a gravy train for them.
I mean, they're not just going to stop the gravy train of their own accord. The people out there, they have to stop complying.
They're going to milk this gravy train as hard as they can, and that's what they're doing financially with the money printing, of course, is once they start throwing that into high gear, then there's no coming back from that, and it's just massive theft from the people that are holding dollars. The more they print, the trillions more that they put into circulation, the more they devalue the existing whatever slight amount of savings the people of the United States already have. So people better wake up, and they better start paying attention and thinking real hard about what they're going to do about this. And, of course, the best solution that I think has presented itself and is getting some coverage as far as people are talking about it is the idea of a national divorce. And that is to say that people who have differing belief systems, whether we're talking about abortion or gun rights or whatever, ought to migrate. Instead of just complaining and protesting and making a bunch of noise and, being annoying, you can just go somewhere better. You can
then protest there.
And fine. Because there are obviously always going to be things to fight about wherever it is that you go. But if you go somewhere that is more friendly to your viewpoints, you will be likely happier in that place.
Absolutely.
And isn't that what most people want? Don't people want to maximize their pleasure? Like beasts, don't they want to maximize their pleasure and reduce their pain? Then it would seem to be an obvious solution that if you can do that by simply moving your feet, getting in a car, getting on a bus, hitchhiking if you have to, whatever, get to somewhere that's just more like you.
It seems, though, that, even more than they want to maximize their pleasure, they want to weaponize the state and wield it to inflict suffering on others.
Yeah, and that is ultimately why this whole thing is going to fail, because people, they can't let go of their desire to oppress. They can't let go of just allowing people to be free. They can't have that. They just want to force their views, whether it be right-wing religious views or left-wing insanity or whatever. If you want to join the show, you can. We'll get into the World Economic Forum and their predictions for the future coming up.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nina Maria Potts with the latest world news. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is clinging to power after a tumultuous day in politics. Chancellor Rishi Sunak and Health Secretary Sajid Javid dramatically resigned from cabinet within minutes of each other. A number of junior government members have also resigned. Many believe this is the beginning of the end for Boris Johnson. Health Secretary Sajid Javid sent a letter to Boris Johnson saying he can no longer serve the Prime Minister in good conscience. Moments later, Chancellor Rishi Sunak also resigned. He said his and the Prime Minister's approaches are fundamentally too different. This comes after it was revealed that Boris Johnson knew about complaints made over disgraced MP Chris Pincher's behaviour, despite promising to not have been aware before appointing him as the Deputy Chief Whip. Former Cabinet Secretary Michael Heseltine, who resigned from Margaret Thatcher's government in 1986, says Boris Johnson must now go.
But this is the end. Let me give you an example of the mood. I went to a public event in London this week. 12 people came up to me and said, what on earth is going to happen to the Tory party? It was like a sort of that awful moment when you have a boil before it bursts. The boil has now burst.
Lord Gavin Barwell was Chief of Staff to former British Prime Minister Theresa May and says it will be impossible for Boris Johnson to recover from the blows unleashed by the resigning members of its cabinet on Tuesday.
Millions of people in this country have been wondering how cabinet ministers have been able to go along with all of this, and at last 2 of them have seen sense, in my opinion, and said enough is enough. It may take a few days, it may take a few weeks, it may even take a few months. But yes, I think it is definitely the end.
The death toll in the Independence Day shooting in Chicago has risen to 7 after a parade goer succumbed to their injuries in hospital. Meanwhile, police have revealed that the suspect, 21-year-old Robert Crimo, was known to them and had been reported by family members over his threats to commit acts of violence. Our US correspondent Simon Marks reports.
Police say Crimo planned the attack for weeks, and one of the reasons they could identify him so rapidly was because he was already known to them. Christopher Covelli with the Lake County Sheriff's Department.
A family member reported that Crimo said he was going to kill everyone, and Crimo had a collection of knives. The police responded to his residence. The police removed 16 knives, a dagger, and a sword from Crimo's home.
But officers concluded they had no cause to arrest him. Crimo went on to purchase 2 assault rifles and a set of pistols legally in the Chicago area and to plan the deadly July 4th assault. I'm Simon Marks in Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at one of the greatest banking scandals in history. It's been 10 years since HSBC was fined nearly $2 billion in the US for facilitating the laundering of drugs cartel money in Mexico, specifically cash generated by the drugs operations of Joaquin Guzman, also known as El Chapo. How HSBC became entangled with his cartel is the subject of a new book called Too Big to Jail, and it's authored by British journalist Chris Blackhurst.
HSBC at that time was looking to be the biggest bank in the world. And in the course of that, they bought a bank in Mexico. It was a small bank, primarily in the northwest of Mexico, which is the drugs country. HSBC said that they would apply their controls. What happened was they took their eye off the ball. They carried on buying things. And meanwhile, this bank, which they renamed HSBC, was completely out of control. It's almost like a banking equivalent of Heart of Darkness, where this out of control thing was happening in a far-flung part of the world.
The $1.9 billion fine levied against HSBC was a US record, and while the bank's size may have headed off the threat of more serious penalties, its largest shareholder, a Chinese insurer, is even now calling for the bank to be broken up. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And a reminder now of the hour's top story. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is clinging to power after a tumultuous day in politics. Chancellor Rishi Sunak and Health Secretary Sajid Javid dramatically resigned from cabinet within minutes of each other, and a number of other junior government members have also resigned, with many believing this could be the beginning of the end for Boris Johnson. From Feature Story News, that's the latest. I'm Nina Maria Potts, reporting from Washington.
Despite being objectively awful people, newly engaged couple Ross Bird and Jessica Black want their upcoming wedding to really reflect their personalities.
We're pulling out all the stops to have the kind of wedding that just screams us.
Yeah.
We're going to have a bluegrass band playing 80s pop songs. Because Ross loves bluegrass, but I love 80s music.
And then at the end of the ceremony, this is great, we're going to pass out sparklers to all the guests.
Sources claim that a bunch of candles in mason jars and an Instagram photo booth will truly capture the essence of the insufferable pair.
We didn't want some big, stuffy ceremony.
Yeah,
It should feel more like a fun dance party for our friends.
Because the night's about us, yes, but I mean, it's also, about the people who make us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And those people love us exactly for our uniqueness.
Sources hoped with every fiber of their being that these two would be divorced within a year.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. It is Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the second hour of the program. Coming up, the 8 predictions the World Economic Forum made for 2030. How far are they along? They made these predictions back in 2016. Conan's got that list. We will get into it on the way. We started the show with a little bit of good news, and that is that Americans' confidence in U.S. institution is down again, down to record lows, according to Gallup's poll. With you tonight in the studio, it's Ian.
Aria.
And Conan.
And you can join us at 603-283-6160. We're going to go back to your phone calls and thoughts. First up, Sam is in Ohio. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, you were just talking about this article from Reuters about the gold back the other night, and you were wondering why they don't trash it as much as they trash crypto. I think it's because they actually hold gold themselves, so they can't trash it.
Well, that's an interesting point. We were discussing a Reuters article that was relatively positive towards things like the gold back and Glint Pay, which is another gold-based payment system. That was a surprise to me because we see so much trashing on cryptocurrency by the mainstream media. Not only were they positive towards gold as an alternative to the dollar, they also even, they even spoke aloud the fact that the dollar had been stripped of its precious metals backing. They told a little bit of the history.
Wow, I didn't think they were allowed to talk about that.
Yeah, so it was really strange. We discussed it last night. But, Sam, you make an interesting point. What if Reuters actually has holdings in gold? What if some of these major institutions that we're talking about...
Well, the Federal Reserve most certainly does.
I don't know if that's so certain.
They claim to.
Fort Knox, does it even exist?
Well, I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, if it doesn't, it would be because they rented it to somebody at this point, I would think. I
think they probably emptied those shelves a long time ago.
Yeah, there's long been the theory that Fort Knox is empty, and I don't know what that's based on, but that has been the theory. I'm sure there's some rationale for it, but I'm not intimately familiar with that particular.
Well, I mean, it's just like Coinbase or whoever saying they have all of this Monero, right? I mean, we can't prove it. We can't trace it. We're just supposed to take their word for it. And this is the U.S. government we're talking about claiming they have all of this gold.
Well, yeah, they could prove it by auditing themselves or having a third party come in and audit, and they don't do that, do they?
No.
So.
Audit the Fed.
The last time they had a third party audit was because Eisenhower asked for it, basically.
Well, that's a long time ago at this point. Anything else you want to point out, Sam?
No, I just thought it was an interesting article, and I wanted to say that I thought your observation was accurate, and I figured you might want to hear the reason why they would be talking positively about
Interesting point tonight. Thank you, Sam, for the call. Let's talk to Major Payne in Michigan. You're on Free Talk Live. Major.
Hey, yeah, we got a Highland Park just outside of Detroit, too, but this one in Chicago where the shooting happened, I'm pretty sure that's Lake County. You can check it on your Magic Triangle if you want to, but I just heard an update from the BBC, and this kid had already been raided because probably one of his family members ratted him, but he had like 50, 65 knives and half dozen swords and such seized from him. But they couldn't find grounds to arrest him. And 2 weeks later, he went out and bought 2 semi-automatic rifles. And,
Just to clarify, who was it that raided this young man?
I don't know. They did not speculate on that. I would assume it would be Chicago PD, not the feds. I don't know.
Yeah, generally you don't hear about the feds being concerned with somebody with a bunch of knives. But I don't. Yeah, you don't know. I don't know either.
I mean, it sounds like they questioned this guy. They found him suspicious. They questioned him. They weren't able to charge him with a crime because he hadn't done anything illegal at that point. So they can't charge someone with thought crime or, hey, he may be, he may go on a shooting spree one day. Let's arrest him now or take away his right to bear arms now.
Unless that's what this is all about. We keep having
red flag laws, right?
Exactly. That's what's going to come next because you keep all of these shooters. They have two things in common. They have been known suspects. The FBI or the whoever knew about them, and they're on SSRIs.
Is that true with this guy?
I'm not sure about this one yet.
He looks like a nutcase, though. I mean, when you see a picture of this guy, you're like, oh, of course he's a
killer. Yeah.
Major. From what I've been able to glean so far, he came from a broken home, and I would have to assume that the last parent that had any faith in him, ratted him, and that's when the knives and swords were removed. Because the last report I heard is he had an uncle that lived downstairs, so I'm thinking he lived in the upstairs attic flat of the uncle's house. Because the uncle actually stated, I had no idea there was anything strange going on.
Well, I mean, he looks pretty strange. There's that, but that's what's new. I mean, there's plenty of young people that look weird, right? So, like, just because you look weird doesn't mean you're going to go on a shooting spree.
Yeah, when you're living in Chicago and you're used to seeing kids with green and pink hair and bones in their noses and such, a YouTube video don't spook you.
Thank you, Major, for the call tonight. Appreciate it. The number is 603-283-6160. We're talking about Robert Crimo, who is the alleged shooter from yesterday in Highland Park. He was a rapper who had apparently, I don't know if it's a SoundCloud or what system he was hosting his music on.
He boasted that one of his songs had millions of plays, though. I don't know if
that's what I'd heard.
I haven't. I don't want to listen to the guy's music. I mean,
I pulled some of it up.
I'm not a big fan of rap anyway, and it sounds like it's probably not very good.
Well, of course, it's hard to get your hands on it because the mainstream
Even
big tech
now,
corporations,
really?
They're pulling his accounts. You know how they do it. YouTube took his account down yesterday.
It's silly that impacts his music. I mean, there are Scandinavian death metal musicians who are like convicted murderers and stuff, and no one's pulling their music.
Yeah, it's just they don't want you to be able to do your own research. They don't want you to be able to learn make your own conclusions from the facts, from the things that this person actually had to say. What we did hear yesterday was that Mr. Crimo has released some sort of a manifesto, but it was encoded numerically. So they're going to have to crack the code on this thing. It's not.
Why even release it? Why? What the hell? The whole point of a manifesto is to
so people can read it.
Yes, and then you release it in encoded format. That's.
We're not dealing with sane people here, right? We're talking about a crazy person who shot what it sounds like at least 2 full 30-round magazines at a crowd of people during a parade yesterday.
But see, this is both insane and stupid.
Oh, sure. So he's in custody, by the way. I don't know if you heard about that. I have not been looking for any updates on that particular situation today. Yesterday, there was some debate, of course, as to what are the beliefs of this individual. There are images of him wearing like a Trump flag or something, and there's another one of him at a Trump rally, but then there's another picture that he posted of himself where he claims that he's a victim of MK Ultra, which is like brainwashing by the government, essentially. And
I wouldn't
further
be surprised.
claims that he's a liberal. So you got on one hand, he's saying he's a liberal, but on the other hand, he's at Trump rallies wrapped in the Trump flag. There was somebody who posted today online claiming to be an old friend of his who worked together with him on some of his music, who claimed that he is neither a liberal nor a Trumper, that he was just a lost young person. I think he was 22 years old, that he's just lost and was looking to, align himself with something. So he had no real beliefs.
So he aligned himself with mass murder?
Killing, yes, apparently.
That's strange to me. You don't get he's just a confused, lost young man. No, he's a murderer, presumably.
Well, he wasn't when this person knew him.
Okay, fair.
When this person, and to the contrary point was, well, look, dude, you knew him 4 years ago. We don't know what happened to him in the last 4 years. In a young person's life, a lot can happen between age 18 and 22.
Yeah, that's like a fifth of their life.
But when this person did know Mr. Cremo, he was someone who didn't have any particular belief system. So it's possible that he has been a liberal and he has been a Trump supporter and then went in a different direction completely. I don't think we're going to be able to necessarily...
I used to be a communist, right?
There you go. So I don't think we're going to be able to put our thumb down on any one particular belief system until at least the manifesto gets translated or decoded.
And then we have to trust that they decoded it correctly.
Well, if it's available publicly, then you'd be able to verify that. Now, again, it's usually hard to find these things, so probably you have to search 4chan if you want to have a chance at uncovering the actual document. The number, if you want to join us here at 603-283-6160, we'll get into the World Economic Forum and their predictions for the future. It's Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Phone's open. You can join us here. Number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live is, by the way, brought to you by Bitcoin.com. You ready to start learning about cryptocurrency? You want to get away from those banks people are so frustrated with? About 1 in 3 Americans has any trust in banks, it seems like these days. So you're looking for alternatives, you ought to look at cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. You can go to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started at the top of the page. You can watch some introductory videos there that will give you the basics about the world of cryptocurrency. And it's an important thing that is, even though it's quote-unquote down in price, it's only down to 2020 levels.
Yeah, it's not bad.
No.
It's a good time to buy.
Yeah, this used to be a record high, right? Like right now, 19,000 used to be something that we'd never seen before. So for a lot of people, it might be a good opportunity to get in, but you ought to learn the basics first. So head over to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started at the top of the page, and you can do that there. It's Ian, Aria, and Conan in the studio here tonight. Phones are open as always. Conan, you wanted to get back into the World Economic Forum. These guys keep coming up. They've gotten all kinds of visibility within just the last 2 years. I'd heard of them before 2020, but I don't think we spent any significant time talking about them in any meaningful fashion.
I think a lot of people, I think that the 2 years had people locked down and just staring at a computer screen with lots of time on their hands, and they had more opportunity to research these guys. And of course, you have more YouTubers and more podcasts and more people who are waking up to this, and they're talking about it.
Well,
and I think it's really important because this is not, by the way, this didn't just start 2 years ago, and it didn't just start in 2016 when this article was written.
It's been around for decades.
Decades and decades. Club of Rome. This is these depopulationist elites have been around for many years, and that's what's it seems to be their main goal is that there's too many people on this planet.
I don't think it was the podcasters and YouTubers and all of that, though. I mean, the New York Times was pimping the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset. They had an entire section.
Well, I'm talking about the people who are actually calling them out. Yeah, there's lots of legacy media that are covering this. Like this is a Forbes article, and they're giving the World Economic Forum this opportunity to call their case.
But the point is that mainstream media may have paid attention to them before 2020, but it got huge exposure in 2020, and it was due to a lot of companies like the New York Times coming on board and parroting this World Economic Forum agenda that they've been pushing. This Great Reset, which when I first heard about it, I felt like I'd heard of it before, but I hadn't. I remember we checked it on the air once, and I couldn't find any evidence of it existing prior to 2020,
right?
But yet they have still had these plans for a very, very long time, and they just came up with this new name for it. I think essentially
the Build Back Better is the new name, the new 2022 name that everyone is.
Is that World Economic Forum pushing that too?
Who knows? But I know that a lot of leaders out there are pushing the Build Back Better. Everyone from Trudeau to Boris Johnson to Biden, everyone's used it.
What is the difference between Build Back Better and Make America Great Again?
Build Back Better is you break it, and then you build back better.
Build Back Better is alliterative.
In your image, your progressive image.
I mean, that's true for MAGA as well, though. I mean, if you want to make America great again, you have to first make it ungreat.
No. You just start making it great again. You start from.
You have to operate. I mean, it has to be ungreat before you can make it great again, right?
That's what the conservatives have been claiming.
It's already ungreat.
It's ungreat right now, and I think a lot of people agree with that. We just went through the list. Most people in this country are not happy with American institutions.
The supermajority.
I would say that for Build Back Better, though, it's also already broken. They don't have to break it.
I think that they're going to break it as much as
this is slogans.
This is boot camp.
That was sort of my point. To me, MAGA and Build Back Better are equivalent.
They seem very similar.
Yeah.
I don't. In my book, no. Build Back Better is you intentionally break it as much as possible. You inflate the money until it's so out of control that the hyperinflation.
But they won't admit that.
You get everyone locked down.
They're not going to say
you get everyone to quit their jobs. You kill off a portion of the population from.
But they don't say that stuff.
And that could all be true.
Of course, they don't.
That could all be true of MAGA as well, right? Before you can make it great again, you have to first make it completely miserable. You have to get everyone fired. You have to lock down. You have to do all of these things.
I disagree. I don't think that. I don't think you could talk to any conservative who thinks patriots who think that breaking the country any further is the correct response.
Well, you're not going to find any average Democrats who are like, yeah, we need to break America.
Yes, I beat them all the time. These are the ones who will throw a rock through your windshield if they disagree with your bumper sticker.
I've never met any of these people.
These people exist.
Well, it is true that World Economic Forum is pimping Build Back Better. You can find examples of that on their website going back to 2020.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to dig these. These are articles that I've been familiar with. The 8 predictions, and of course the live in your pot, eat bugs, and be happy. These are articles from 2016, and I really wanted to go through them and see how far we've come.
This is pre-Trump.
6 years,
right? This is like before the election.
Oh yeah, this is Biden. I'm sorry, Obama.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, this first article from 2016, Forbes. Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better. Woohoo! Now,
does it have who wrote this thing?
Ida Aiken.
Okay.
Wrote this, and he is a who? He's a contributor for the World Economic Forum. So this is their spokeshole.
I don't believe for a second that this guy doesn't want privacy, though. I mean, the elites want privacy for themselves.
Oh yeah,
of course.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and they want to eat their steak. You're not going to see any of these elites. Trudeau is not going to eat bugs unless it's on camera to convince all of the peons out there that it's good to go. And then he's back at home eating steak and drinking wine. Welcome to the year 2030. Welcome to my city, or should I say, our city. I don't own anything. I don't own a car. I don't own a house. I don't own any appliances or any clothes.
All right, I'm intrigued.
It might seem odd to you, but it makes perfect sense for us in this city.
Is he eating Soylent Green too?
He has already given his body to the state that so when he dies, he's going to get chopped up and become Soylent Green for the next guy.
They're all naturalists. Is that correct?
No. I'm sorry. They're not going to eat him. They're going to feed his body to the grasshoppers, the crickets, which is then going to be consumed by the people.
There you go.
So, this is because no one eats meat anymore. It's only bug protein. It might seem odd to you, but it makes perfect sense for us in this city. Everything you considered a product has now become a service. We have access to transportation, accommodation, food, and all the things we need in our daily lives.
Okay, I don't want food as a service. I don't even know what that means, but I don't. I want
You're in the food service industry.
Yes, but the food itself is not a service. The food is a product.
Well, I don't see how you can separate food from ever being a product. I'm curious if they give us any more detail on what they mean by food as a service.
I think they mean they're going to deliver it to your house.
That we've seen happen already.
It's already happened. So that's why we're going through this, because I want to see how far we've come.
Yeah, I'm not just talking about Uber Eats or DoorDash. There's the subscription services, right? The box that you get every month.
Believe me, I deliver to many customers who get these who are subscribed to these services.
And it's not a terrible idea, honestly, right? Like, as far as I've never done it myself.
It depends on the shipping. And I don't think that people are paying shipping according to what it is actually worth. I think there is some deal, and I think that Amazon is being subsidized by the taxpayers. I think if you actually paid the proper shipping, people would stop having dog food shipped to their doors.
I want to know if we got any of the Food Box subscribers listening to the show tonight live. If you want to call in and tell us about your experience with this, the number 603-283-6160. I know Matt and Nikki right next door, they subscribe to one of them. More coming up. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nina Maria Potts with the latest world news. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is clinging to power after a tumultuous day in politics. Chancellor Rishi Sunak and Health Secretary Sajid Javid dramatically resigned from cabinet within minutes of each other. A number of junior government members have also resigned. Many believe this is the beginning of the end for Boris Johnson. Health Secretary Sajid Javid sent a letter to Boris Johnson saying he can no longer serve the Prime Minister in good conscience. Moments later, Chancellor Rishi Sunak also resigned. He said his and the Prime Minister's approaches are fundamentally too different. This comes after it was revealed that Boris Johnson knew about complaints made over disgraced MP Chris Pincher's behaviour, despite promising to not have been aware before appointing him as the Deputy Chief Whip. Former Cabinet Secretary Michael Heseltine, who resigned from Margaret Thatcher's government in 1986, says Boris Johnson must now go.
But this is the end. Let me give you an example of the mood. I went to a public event in London this week. 12 people came up to me and said, what on earth is going to happen to the Tory party? It was like a sort of that awful moment when you have a boil before it bursts. The boil has now burst.
Lord Gavin Barwell was Chief of Staff to former British Prime Minister Theresa May and says it will be impossible for Boris Johnson to recover from the blows unleashed by the resigning members of its cabinet on Tuesday.
Millions of people in this country have been wondering how cabinet ministers have been able to go along with all of this, and at last two of them have seen sense, in my opinion, and said enough is enough. It may take a few days, it may take a few weeks, it may even take a few months. But yes, I think it is definitely the end.
The death toll in the Independence Day shooting in Chicago has risen to 7 after a parade goer succumbed to their injuries in hospital. Meanwhile, police have revealed that the suspect, 21-year-old Robert Crimo, was known to them and had been reported by family members over his threats to commit acts of violence. Our U.S. correspondent Simon Marks reports.
Police say Crimo planned the attack for weeks, and one of the reasons they could identify him so rapidly was because he was already known to them. Christopher Covelli with the Lake County Sheriff's Department.
A family member reported that Crimo said he was going to kill everyone, and Crimo had a collection of knives. The police responded to his residence. The police removed 16 knives, a dagger, and a sword from Crimo's home.
But officers concluded they had no cause to arrest him. Crimo went on to purchase 2 assault rifles and a set of pistols legally in the Chicago area and to plan the deadly July 4th assault. I'm Simon Marks in Washington.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. The phones are open here. You can join us. We're talking about the World Economic Forum. This group of elites, business leaders, and politicians.
I mean, it's basically the Bilderberg Group, right?
Without the secrecy.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure there's secrets in the World Economic Forum. There must be. But they put their meeting online.
Oh,
they
it's all
actually
online.
streamed it. So they just are right out there with what they want to do with the world, which, of course, when you try to understand what they're saying, it's a lot of market speak, kind of gobbledygook, word salad stuff.
That's right. They wanted a commodity capitalism or something like that.
Stakeholder capitalism.
It was a lot of buzzword, word salad nonsense.
Yeah, it's something that their founder, Klaus Schwab, who's like this total evil villain-looking
straight out of
character,
James Bond.
Has he ever actually contributed anything of value to the world?
I mean, he's been doing World Economic Forum for the last 50 years. I'm
That's
sure
nothing
he
of
believes
value,
I was going to
though.
say, I'm sure he thinks it is, but
you could say the same thing about Prince Charles. What has he done for the world?
Well, I would certainly say that royalty in general has
does
not. But
nothing.
He reminds me of this Carl Schwab guy. He reminds me of Karl Marx. You know, he thought
He's
a lot.
got a statue of
and
Lenin.
He wrote a lot.
Of Vladimir Lenin. Or
That's
whatever.
right, he does. Yeah, a bust or
Yeah.
something.
In his, it's behind him whenever he's on video. So that's all you need to know about this guy. I mean, he's a psychopath.
Obviously.
World Economic Forum, Conan, you have their vision.
This is one of their spokesholes who wrote an article about what if. This is his
vision.
This
for
is his
2030.
vision, and he's laying it out. You know, the first thing he talked about was
he has no clothes.
Everything. Yeah, he doesn't own
I want to
anything.
get back to that because that's the weirdest part of this to me. Right? Do they just live in naturalist society?
No, there's no way.
The problem with this whole article, none of this will ever work. They're going to try to make it work. I think they're trying as we speak, but it won't hold water
He
at
has
the end
no
of the day.
car. He has no, what was it?
No clothes,
possessions.
no house. Everything is just available for everyone to use.
Look, nudity won't work here in New Hampshire. It just
Gets
won't.
cold, yeah.
It gets way too cold. Like even here in July at night, it drops down to like 50 degrees or whatever. No one's walking around naked.
No, there will be clothes, Arya, but you'll be sharing them with everyone else.
At the same time?
It's like a huge commune. No, you well, So yeah,
does he get into? I mean,
yeah, he does. But
okay,
the first on the list is everything is a service.
I don't want someone else's used clothes, man. I'm not a stop, right? You know, if there's something that's secondhand or something like that, I don't mind.
Put the clothes in the free washing machine with the free soda.
I'm gonna guess
detergent.
I'm gonna guess what here. I've not seen. I believe we've seen this article before, but we didn't go all the way through it on Free Talk Live.
Your brand new fresh sneakers will be brought to you on a drone. And they'll be dropped off in your yard, and you'll open them up, and you'll put them on, and you'll
but they'll
be good
be
to
mine,
go.
right?
No. So here's what I think would be happening is they're probably going to, you talk about dropping off the clothes at some sort of, government washing facility. Well, then you just pick the other clothes up, right? Like being in prison, right?
Yep.
You don't.
That was exactly what I thought, because I've seen clothes and, other materials as provided by the government.
And when you get your fresh clothes and your fresh sneakers,
it's a jumpsuit.
You get yourself a fresh sheet for your bed and a pillowcase and a new pillow.
A plastic pillowcase and a plastic sheet.
Actually, you know what? It's not like, well, I can't speak to prison. I can speak to jail. At least in the New Hampshire jails, you do keep the same clothes that you're issued upon your arrival, and you have to put it in a separate bag that goes into the laundry, and you get your set of clothes. So that's not even the case, but that's probably what they're talking about here, is where you will just constantly be sharing clothes with other people, which means they don't want you to have any individuality, right? They will issue you the specific colors or whatever that the government says you can have.
There will be 3 flavors of Pop-Tarts.
It'll be sizes.
It'll be 3 flavors of ice cream.
Yeah,
there'll be one type of bean. There'll be one type of potato.
Remember in the 1984, you get a chocolate ration, and that's it.
That's it.
You don't get 3 flavors.
Yeah, but if there's anything I've learned from years of watching documentaries and stuff like that, is that no matter how badly you lock down people in prison or whatever, and you allow them no individuality whatsoever, they find a way.
They will. That's true.
And they always find a way to have something like alcohol, as disgusting as it is. They manage to make it. They manage to make tattoos. They always find a way to express individuality.
That's true.
These people like the World Economic Forum, they want everyone to be this homogenized blob or whatever,
Except
but
themselves.
people just don't work that way.
Except themselves and their buddies. They want everyone else, the peons, living in their cubicles, playing video games, and getting high.
Yeah, but it's a failure. What they want to do is a failure from the beginning. It's a non-starter. It will never work.
If they can get the people high enough and low IQ enough, they can do this. They can pull it off.
Nah, people love their individualism just too much, man.
We have access to transportation, accommodation, food, and all the things we need in our daily lives. One by one, all these things became free. So it ended up not making sense for us to own much. First,
no, if it's free, everyone's going to hoard it.
So, okay, I want to go back to what we were talking about before with the food boxes. And again, if you're out there and you got one of these subscriptions, call in. Because some of these things, like cars that you don't own but you use, some of these concepts...
There won't be cars, it'll be just bicycles.
Oh, you're going to have something
it's scooters.
It's too cold to be on a bicycle some months of the year. But the point I want to make here is that there are economic factors in play that will move people towards some of these ideas that World Economic Forum doesn't have to lift a finger. It will just simply be economics. So, for instance, the idea of the car that is not yours, but you use and other people also use. So not quite the idea of an Uber driver driving you around, because that's sort of that.
I think people are already kind of doing this.
This exists. It's called a zip car.
Yes.
And they exist specifically in cities. So you're not going to see it in Keene, New Hampshire.
But they also do it with the scooters, and there's a scooter problem all over the place. Where
That's what I was about to ask about.
They just throw their stupid scooter right there in the river when they're done with it because everyone's a-holes. Or they just leave them in the street, and before you know it...
And there's going to be problems. I mean, these cars are not going to be as nice as whatever car you might own personally, right?
Yeah, why does this car smell like vomit? Oh, I know why, because there's a dead bum in the back seat.
There's definitely some challenges with this, but for somebody that lives in a city, and we are not those people, but for the people that do live in a city, you can't afford to own a car in a lot of cases. It costs too much to park the damn thing.
And a lot of times it's just not worth it because you don't have to travel that far.
Correct. And there's public transportation that is fairly ubiquitous, so you don't really need to have a car if you live in a place like New York City. But you may still need to use a car from time to time. It just, if you only use a car 5 times a year or a dozen times a year, it doesn't make sense to own the thing. But if you can just walk to the car, walk a block away, and there's one of these zip cars sitting there, and you can just pick it up and take it, and then you leave it wherever it is you leave it, that's pretty convenient. And I can understand why that service exists, and I can understand why people would utilize it. And so they're talking about those sorts of concepts where you are able to use a certain thing, but you don't necessarily own it.
How is it different from like Enterprise and other car rental services?
It's more in the moment, I guess. I don't know what level of application. There's probably a credit check or something like that. You probably have to sign up for an app, and then the app gives you access to the car.
Yeah,
right?
I think that the most important for the zip car to actually work is knowing who used that vehicle last. So that you can charge them accordingly if they're the dead bum that dies in the back seat
or something like that.
I mean, that's what I was thinking, because I've rented cars before several times, and it's always a usually nice, well-maintained vehicle. I mean, sure, the person who drove it before me, just drove the hell out of it, but when they returned it, it was in good condition.
They've changed the oil and things like that.
Yeah.
I think one of the other differences, again, having never used this service and only ever hearing about it, one of the other differences is when you're done with the zip car, you leave it where you leave it. So if you get to go to a meeting and somebody else picks you up, or you walk home or whatever, you can just leave it sitting there on the side of the road, and then somebody else, they look up on the app that they need to use the car, and it's the nearest car to them, so they go to the car and they get into it and they drive it somewhere. Yep. Is the idea.
But the difference is that people are renting. It's a service that they're actually subscribed to as far as the zip car is concerned. This guy, this visionary,
you wouldn't even have to pay for it.
He's saying everything's free.
That's crazy. Of course.
Yes, it is. Yeah. But I mean, maybe if AI is in control of everything, we got robots cleaning the cars and making all the product. Maybe this is a kind of a Star Trek. What's the
Replicators?
I mean, who? But
at
the end of the day, who fixes the damn replicator?
Jordy.
Who makes the replicator?
If we get to replicators by 2030, I'll be pretty surprised, and that really will change a lot of life. But there's more to this vision that you're going to share here
lots
from
more.
The control freaks at the World Economic Forum. What do they say life's going to be like within a matter of decades? This is Free Talk Live. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and phones are open if you want to join us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We're talking about the World Economic Forum and their vision for the future. 2030, I think is what they said. Did they specify 2030 that they expect all this to be
6 years ago they
place? This was 2016 when they wrote this, and Conan, you're sharing their vision with us. We'll dig deeper into that coming up here in a moment. But I do want you to know about Freedom Fest. It's coming up and coming fast within the next a week and a half, basically. July 13th through the 16th, our very own Mark Edge will join thousands of passionate defenders of liberty at the Mirage in Las Vegas for Freedom Fest. It is what they say is the world's largest gathering of free minds. I don't know if that's true after this year's Porcupine Freedom Festival, but it is definitely one of the largest. Freedom Fest is a very big event, and there will be many dozens of speakers there. Mark Edge, our very own co-host, will be speaking, plus big names like John Cleese, Ben Stein, Senator Rand Paul, Glenn Beck, Spike Cohen, Justin Amash, Andrew Yang. Not sure why he's there, but they're going to have him. It's an interesting group of people, and there's one of the things I like about Freedom Fest is it's not all libertarians. There are conservatives that do attend that event, and I think it's important for them to encounter the libertarians' viewpoints. So there's a bit of mixing going on, and I think there's a good thing that comes out of that.
We need one of these for like the leftists as well, though.
I agree with you there. I don't know if such a thing exists. But
Burning Man.
They canceled Burning Man due to COVID.
What a bunch of wimps!
Aren't they way too far to the left? Though I mean, like these conservatives at Freedom Fest. I mean, they are conservatives, but they're open to the ideas of liberty.
They
and
like
freedom.
to believe they care about freedom.
Versus the people at Burning Man who. We're not going to reach them with the ideas of the free market. We're just not.
No, unfortunately, probably not. But that said, there have been libertarians who
maybe
attended Burning Man.
Jackalope. No, Jackalope's still not leftist.
It's actually interesting, Conan. We've been covering the Burning Mans in the last couple of years because despite the fact that it has been canceled, the hardcore burners are still going.
Good.
And they're still doing their thing out in the Black Rock Desert without permission. They're not asking the government for permission.
But you know the weirdest part about that? Isn't it like just a nonstop orgy? You know, people just doing all kinds of...
I mean, there are orgies, I think.
All kinds of weird drugs, and everyone's having sex with each other.
I don't
and
know
it's
if
just
that's true, but...
So it's like Pork Fest.
It's probably a little overblown
and
then
they're afraid of no masks.
Well, not the ones who went.
Well, right, yeah. So the leftist cowards didn't go. But the people who were the true hardcore burners, they did go.
Burners.
And it's a fascinating group of people, and I would say that's a good answer as far as what would come closest to libertarians mixing with people on the left. But check out freedomfest.com. Use code FTL50. You'll save $50 off the regular ticket price. And again, it's coming up fast, July 13th through the 16th at the Mirage in Las Vegas. You can join our very own Mark Edge and thousands of others for Freedom Fest at freedomfest.com with code FTL50. To save $50. All right, so Conan, back to the story.
Back to the vision. This is this guy. He is a World Economic Forum contributor.
He's a mouthpiece,
and he's a spokeshole for them, and he's laying out what needs to happen and what we can expect. This was written 6 years ago, and they say that this is going to all take place.
And they try to kick a lot of this into high gear.
In another 8 years.
Yeah, they use COVID as their excuse to really ramp this up.
Build back better.
I mean, and you mentioned replicators, right? Replicators, for those who don't know,
from Star Trek.
It can rearrange matter into basically anything you want. Like you tell it you want a new T-shirt or whatever.
I want a pizza.
Yeah, boop. And it takes the hydrogen and oxygen.
Earl Grey.
It takes whatever molecules are around and it rearranges them into whatever you want. If such technology like that existed, I could see how this sort of world could work, where everything is free, no one pays for anything, because at that point, scarcity has, for the most part, ceased to exist.
But the key difference here is that they're not just saying everything's free, they're saying that you won't own any of it. Because if you've got a replicator in the free market...
But that's Star Trek as well. I don't think no one owned that ship.
But if you get a replicator in a free market, you own the things that you replicate, right? Like those are your creations.
Like the 3D printer.
Yeah, like a 3D printer is sort of an early version of this.
But this person is saying if everything is free, why would you want to own anything?
People want to own things. That's just what they want to do, which is
exactly
why. That's why this is going to be hard to implement.
But if you take away the status element of that, where anyone can have a Mercedes because all they have to do is tell the replicator they want a Mercedes, and it will just generate one for them. I think at that point people will stop wanting to own one as much because it just won't mean anything. They can have a new one at the snap of a finger.
Individual uniqueness is going to shine in that.
I think that's the only thing that could shine, right? Is the individuality.
Unless everyone's high.
Well, even then, everyone's still an individual. Being high doesn't keep people from being individuals. It just means they're high.
If you're laying on your couch all day watching soap operas, I mean, because you don't care about anything.
Well, there's plenty of people that get high and are productive.
Not Soma. Have you had Soma yet?
And if there's replicator technology, why the hell not?
Soma kills all drive. You are just a total peon, loving your job.
Look, if I can just shout at my wall, hey, I want a new, Mitsubishi Eclipse, and it generates it, well, then why not sit around all day lounging?
But here's the problem.
I mean, that's paradise.
You're not going to have that option to have that Mitsubishi. It's going to be it's just going to be one type of car.
The government
It's going to be the government zip car.
Which, of course, didn't work real well for the
That's why none of this is going to work.
Russians.
That's why I prefaced all of what I was saying was like, if replicator technology existed, I could see how these sorts of things will work. But if it's just this, here's your government-issued car and your government-issued sandwich and your government-issued apartment, no, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
People require their individuality.
Here's some of the things that need to happen. First, communication became digitized and free to everyone. Then, when clean energy became free, things started to move quickly. Transportation dropped dramatically in price.
All right, so
it made no sense.
We're already to the world that could not, I don't think, possibly exist in
clean
the next
energy.
10 years.
First of all, clean
Free
energy, and then free energy.
Yeah,
it's
we
never gonna
started
happen.
in fantasy land, and we only went crazier after that.
Free energy would be great. I mean, that's essentially, I guess you wouldn't really even need free energy to have a replicator, because as long as the technology exists, you could still pay to put whatever.
Who you paying? Who's
into it.
working?
Well, let's just say solar.
Who's fixing the damn replicator? That's all. Who's installing the
Robots.
replicator? Okay, we have to have robots. We have to have a benevolent AI who's taking care of us all.
Let's say that they just run off solar. Right. So it is essentially free
That
energy.
would then be basically free, yeah. You'd have probably a limit.
But who manufactures the solar panels? Who installs them? Who replaces them when
Robots.
they finally die after 20 years?
Robots.
Where are all these materials coming from?
Robots.
All right, so we got to have robots, and it's not happening in the next 8 years.
No.
So transportation dropped dramatically in price. It made no sense for us to own cars anymore, because we could all call a driverless vehicle or a flying car for longer journeys within minutes. We started transporting ourselves in
This
much
is
more
obviously
organized and
talking to
coordinated
people.
ways when public transport became easier, quicker, and more convenient than the car.
Yeah, I mean, this is clearly a vision for a city dweller, right? Because people outside of New York City, Los Angeles, these major hubs, there's not a bunch of cabs around. Like,
This person has ideas about the people who are not on board, who don't live in the city and actually live out in the woods.
I definitely want to hear about that part. But
they're not good. They're not good for the system, but I can tell you that.
The last time I went on the Uber app in Keene, New Hampshire, there was 1 or 2 cars available.
You got them when they were busy.
Really?
Yeah, I spent hours upon hours. Like, my car was at the shop or whatever. Spend hours trying to find an Uber. If it's not
Doesn't
a priority, just leave it sitting there. Alternate between
walk
Uber
home.
and Lyft or whatever. It's just,
Just
finding
walk home.
one car here in Keene is amazing.
So, I mean, it's just to consider that these ideas could ever, or in any significant amount of time, come to the rural areas.
This is sci-fi.
It's unbelievable.
This is sci-fi that even this movie wouldn't make sense to me.
No, you're right. It's science fiction. This guy, he's clearly just writing sci-fi.
But this is their vision statement.
This is not just this guy. He is writing for this whole group. This is Klaus Schwab's vision.
I know, they're writing sci-fi. It's never going to come to reality.
They've got people like the Walmart CEO on their board of
MasterCard
directors or whatever. Yeah, big names.
They can
are
spend
pushing
all the
this.
money on this crap that they want, and it's just gonna blow up and fail, just like Facebook's Meta or whatever else.
Or remember the stupid Walmart shopping app that they had for the metaverse? I mean,
yeah,
it was god awful.
I do. I mean, they can create all of these grand visions and spend trillions of dollars on it if they want, but the average person, they're just not this malleable.
Yeah, certainly I don't think the people outside of cities are not going to accept this.
No doubt. Sometimes I use my bike when I go see some of my friends. I enjoy the exercise and the ride.
My bike?
That's a good point. Good point. It kind of gets the soul to come along on this journey. Funny how some things never seem to lose their excitement. Walking, biking, cooking, drawing, and growing plants. It makes perfect sense and reminds us of how our culture emerged out of a close relationship with nature.
Who gets excited from growing plants, right?
I do.
Oh, you're excited. You're like, boy, look at that plant growing. I'm
He
so
really
excited.
does love his garden.
I'm actually addicted to it. I'll talk about that in
There's more
next
coming up
segment.
here in moments. By the way, I've got the food security article by World Economic Forum, and as you guys pointed out, one of the suggestions they have here is to make sure you got enough food is not gardening. It's all about centralization and governments, and it's a terrible concept. More coming up, though. We got Hour 3 on the way.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nina Maria Potts with the latest world news. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is clinging to power after a tumultuous day in politics. Chancellor Rishi Sunak and Health Secretary Sajid Javid dramatically resigned from cabinet within minutes of each other. A number of junior government members have also resigned. Many believe this is the beginning of the end for Boris Johnson. Health Secretary Sajid Javid sent a letter to Boris Johnson saying he can no longer serve the Prime Minister in good conscience. Moments later, Chancellor Rishi Sunak also resigned. He said his and the Prime Minister's approaches are fundamentally too different. This comes after it was revealed that Boris Johnson knew about complaints made over disgraced MP Chris Pincher's behaviour, despite promising to not have been aware before appointing him as the Deputy Chief Whip. Former Cabinet Secretary Michael Heseltine, who resigned from Margaret Thatcher's government in 1986, says Boris Johnson must now go.
But this is the end. Let me give you an example of the mood. I went to a public event in London this week. 12 people came up to me and said, what on earth is going to happen to the Tory party? It was like a sort of that awful moment when you have a boil before it bursts. The boil has now burst.
Lord Gavin Barwell was Chief of Staff to former British Prime Minister Theresa May and says it will be impossible for Boris Johnson to recover from the blows unleashed by the resigning members of its cabinet on Tuesday.
Millions of people in this country have been wondering how cabinet ministers have been able to go along with all of this, and at last 2 of them have seen sense, in my opinion, and said enough is enough. It may take a few days, it may take a few weeks, it may even take a few months. But yes, I think it is definitely the end.
The death toll in the Independence Day shooting in Chicago has risen to 7 after a parade goer succumbed to their injuries in hospital. Meanwhile, police have revealed that the suspect, 21-year-old Robert Crimo, was known to them and had been reported by family members over his threats to commit acts of violence. Our U.S. correspondent Simon Marks reports.
Police say Crimo planned the attack for weeks, and one of the reasons they could identify him so rapidly was because he was already known to them. Christopher Covelli with the Lake County Sheriff's Department.
A family member reported that Crimo said he was going to kill everyone, and Crimo had a collection of knives. The police responded to his residence. The police removed 16 knives, a dagger, and a sword from Crimo's home.
But officers concluded they had no cause to arrest him. Crimo went on to purchase 2 assault rifles and a set of pistols legally in the Chicago area and to plan the deadly July 4th assault. I'm Simon Marks in Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at one of the greatest banking scandals in history. It's been 10 years since HSBC was fined nearly $2 billion in the US for facilitating the laundering of drugs cartel money in Mexico, specifically cash generated by the drugs operations of Joaquin Guzman, also known as El Chapo. How HSBC became entangled with his cartel is the subject of a new book called Too Big to Jail, and it's authored by British journalist Chris Blackhurst.
HSBC at that time was looking to be the biggest bank in the world. And in the course of that, they bought a bank in Mexico. It was a small bank, primarily in the northwest of Mexico, which is the drugs country. HSBC said that they would apply their controls. What happened was they took their eye off the ball. They carried on buying things. And meanwhile, this bank, which they renamed HSBC, was completely out of control. It's almost like a banking equivalent of Heart of Darkness, where this out of control thing was happening in a far-flung part of the world.
The $1.9 billion fine levied against HSBC was a US record, and while the bank's size may have headed off the threat of more serious penalties, its largest shareholder, a Chinese insurer, is even now calling for the bank to be broken up. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And a reminder now of the hour's top story. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is clinging to power after a tumultuous day in politics. Chancellor Rishi Sunak and Health Secretary Sajid Javid dramatically resigned from cabinet within minutes of each other, and a number of other junior government members have also resigned, with many believing this could be the beginning of the end for Boris Johnson. From Feature Story News, that's the latest. I'm Nina Maria Potts, reporting from Washington.
Thank you, Jode. I appreciate you taking up this issue.
Picked up, a man ain't cooked crisp on the Hellfire Desert. Ain't he ought to be left on his own?
Well, right, Jode. Immigrants are desperate for a better way of life.
We need the strongest of these crude backward browns to keep us all alive. I see the ones that can swim the Rio Grande, too. Berto, you swum that border river to get here, ain't you?
Jode, not all Mexicans came here by swimming the Rio Grande.
No. I got sympathy. I crossed Huron Lake in the barrel myself using hands as paddles. Lived off the carp. What jumped at me? Now, you swum that river,
No,
ain't you?
Jode, actually, I was born here.
What you know about hard work? Ain't never swum no river.
Many immigrants, they
I say you
deserve
ain't never knowed a man till you seen his teeth. Show him your teeth. Too many teeth rotting out shows you're dishonest in the mind. You got strong, manful teeth, Bartol. I apologize.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. This is Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the third hour of the program. You're invited if you want to join us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian.
And Conan.
We're going to continue coming up with more of this grand vision of the World Economic Forum, what they want to push down people's throats by using mega corporations and governments that are in their pocket all around the world. They are going to push this hard in the next decade if they get their way, and we will see. But there's more to that story, and Conan, you've got that. We're going to continue it here in just a moment. But first, we go to Greg, calling us from New York City. Greg, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, y'all. Yep, Greg, I try to build stuff to counter all those top-down people, and they're unelected bureaucrats who are, I guess, not even elected in a country, but they are just simply there to oversee countries and tell them what to do.
Yeah, I think those are the real problematic people. Are those unelected, deep state type, lobbyists and whatnot, lobbyists and the guys writing. I don't care about the Pelosi, and she doesn't really have all that much power. It's the person that's writing the bills for her.
Mm-hmm.
What companies, organizations are writing those laws that she is signing? I don't really.
Who does that stuff?
I mean, that's the scariest part, too. Your average American gives no consideration whatsoever to that. They assume that, Nancy Pelosi and all these others are the ones writing the bill. But as Jim Babka talks about all the time in our commercial breaks, there's the Affordable Care Act or whatever act where it had some provision allowing them to monitor IRS tax returns or something from average citizens. And the senator who proposed the bill was like, I didn't write it.
Yeah.
I didn't put that in there. I didn't even know it was there.
And everyone's like, term limits this, term limits that. It's like, no, term limits aren't going to make any difference because they're not actually writing these bills.
What were you calling about tonight, Greg?
No, they're not even reading it. I just want to say one other thing, people talk about fat cats, but there is a group called FATCA. Has anybody heard of FATCA?
Yes, this is essentially a group of bankers globally that set policy that is adopted by, central bank types, right?
What are they called?
FATCA.
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 Like a fat cat.
FATCA.
So they basically go around telling governments, okay, you're going to implement these things because we can't have offshore tax havens and all these kinds of things. Everyone's got to fall in line. And if you don't, you will be cut off from the world economic system.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, these guys have been in the news with regards to cryptocurrency. That's how I first heard about them. They were trying to cook up essentially global regulations for cryptocurrency. And like you're saying, Greg, they cook this stuff up and they then present it to their members and the other governments of the world. And they say, we have said this is what you will do. And if you don't do it, you're on the outs. We're going to cut you off of the banking system.
It's very, very interesting. So,
well, let them do it. I mean, if there's anything that I learned from watching Russia get, quote, cut off from the banking system, is that it's a survivable phenomenon. In fact, Russia's probably thriving as a result of it.
Yeah, that's because Russia has been prepping for decades.
So have I.
Buying gold, making sure they have all their own resources. They've been getting ready for this for a long time.
And they're also a big country. They have a lot of resources to themselves. Plus,
they still have lots of clientele. They have lots of customers. Germany,
they have their allies.
China, India, Turkey.
So Russia's preppers, basically.
They've been prepping. Yes, exactly what I've been telling everyone in this country to do for years now. Russia's been doing.
All right, Greg, what else?
Yeah, so basically you've got the world being split into two parts, the East versus the West. Really weird, but you're getting a lot of countries now leaving the dollar hegemony. You've got Saudi Arabia now selling their oil, I think, for Chinese yuan and treasuries. And you got India, Pakistan, China. Africa is heavily invested in by China.
I'm sort of surprised to hear that Saudi Arabia is, or any of these countries, like, if you've been accepting the USD and suddenly you don't trust that anymore, why would you trust an alternative? Shouldn't the lesson here be, okay, we need some real payment here, some gold or something?
Because they kill you.
Not a different fiat currency. They can't kill them all.
They will kill you.
Yeah, but they can't kill us all, man.
I'm talking about these global leaders.
I understand.
Who don't want to play ball. If they don't play ball, they become North Korea. They become Iran. They become Syria.
Gaddafi.
That's what I'm saying. If you try to create your own currency and try to do your own thing, they will kill you.
Or they become Russia.
Russia can do it, though. Russia can get away with it. They're a big enough country.
A lot of these countries could get away with it,
and that's why you have these little countries that are allying with Russia, or they're not maybe not allying, but they're not going against anything Russia's doing because they can see the writing on the wall. USD is going out.
They should just take it one step further and not replace the USD with the ruble or the yuan or whatever. Replace it with actual money.
Well, there has been a talk, and I don't know if it's gone past the talking stage, about putting some sort of a gold backing to the ruble, which of course would be an incredible game changer. But why any central bank would make that choice is just a mind boggler.
Because they want to make libertarians in the United States support the Russian government.
Yeah, well, that's not worth anything. All right, Greg, what else?
So basically, everyone having their own currency is kind of the idea of Intercoin, like my project. And basically the idea is that everyone should have their own currency, and some towns do have their own currency. Sri Lanka right now could definitely use their own currency because they ran out of dollars. Sri Lanka is basically broke, and they have no fuel either, so they can't even get to work anymore. I think it's really important to have your own currency before you get a crisis like that.
Yeah.
By the time you have a crisis, it's kind of too late at this point for them to adopt their own currency for that kind of stuff.
Isn't the point of a currency, though, that is supposed to be commonly exchanged and not unique to this particular community or that particular community?
No, the libertarian vision would be everyone can have their own currency, not one global currency for the whole world.
I know they could, but that sort of defeats the. If I'm using X currency and Ian's using a different currency, we have no way of, making any sort of economic activity happening because we're each using our own different currency. That's why a currency is a common means of exchange, right?
Well, Ian can tell you that Intercoin can help you between communities. So yes, within one community, you could have your own currency, just like you have your own language or culture. But then as you go between communities, you need something like the internet. And that is why the Intercoin project has Intercoin. The local currencies are local, but Intercoin is global, and it tries to help them interact
Okay,
with
but
each other.
just to be clear, though, Greg, that's just your vision. Yeah. Intercoin doesn't exist in that particular format yet, right? Like, it's just something you are working towards.
It's moving towards that, yes. Yeah. I can't say that it's a global platform as of right now.
But we're starting to see some of, there are things like Miami Coin and New York City Coin. I don't know if they've caught on in any way, shape, or form, but there are attempts to create some sort of a cryptocurrency. These are outside of your project, Greg, but some other people are working on those things. Like a lot of cryptos, they've done dismally in the last several months.
But I mean, wouldn't like Miami Coin? I assume that's an ERC20 token, and New York City Coin is probably
it's something else,
or a Bitcoin Cash token, or some kind of token. But wouldn't they all be convertible to like Ethereum or Bitcoin Cash or whatever?
As long as they're supported by exchanges.
Yeah,
they're built on Stacks, which is a whole other animal, and it's based around this company funded by Union Square Ventures. No, unfortunately, these coins are Miami Coin in name only. No one in Miami actually uses that coin, as far as I know.
Well, this is a problem that the cryptocurrency industry has all over the place, right? I didn't want to get into it with Doug Scribner, who brought it up during my speech at the Porcupine Freedom Festival, where he said that Florida was this cryptocurrency mecca, and I said, you mean Miami? And he said, yeah, and I just pointed out that, we've actually got a real community here in New Hampshire. You can go to and look on the coin map at Miami, and you cannot find jack diddly as far as places that actually accept any cryptocurrency whatsoever to physically go and buy things with crypto. And thank you, Greg. That is definitely, I appreciate your call tonight. That's definitely the biggest challenge I think that cryptocurrency faces, is actually getting people to adopt and use it instead of this
hoarding it.
Yeah, this idea of, let's just hold on to it and hope it goes up in value. Actually use it to buy things. Like we're seeing in some places in the world, like New Hampshire to some extent. The islands, the Caribbean, some of the islands are really killing it with Bitcoin Cash. There's more coming up.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Phones are open here and you can join us. The future of society, World Economic Forum, they've got a vision that they're pimping, and they're doing it in a heavy way. They've got a lot of money, and they got a lot of big corporate and political supporters.
They got a lot of people in their pockets.
And Conan's got their vision that was released in 2016 for what they want to happen by the year 2030, and we're going to see how far along they are about that. We're going to continue with the discussion, and your calls, of course, are welcome if you want to weigh in at 603-283-6160. Coming up in just a few months from now, there's going to be an event that our very own Mark Edge is going to be speaking at, happening in Prague. October 21st through the 23rd, this is basically the opposite of the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum wants centralization and total control, whereas the Free Cities Foundation is holding an event called Liberty in Our Lifetime, where they are going to have a theme of parallel structures for progress. They'll be exploring physical developments and parallel structures emerging in education and finance that offer alternatives for people looking for better ways to learn, educate their children, and invest in the future. They want autonomous cities and intentional communities springing up around the world, offering opportunities for settlers to live freer lives and actually own things. So if you want to go and learn more about this, you can attend the Free Private Cities Foundation conference. You just go to their website, lifetimeliberty.com. You can use code FTL20 and you'll save 20% on your early bird already discounted ticket price. It's once again lifetimeliberty.com, code FTL20. The event is October 21st through the 23rd, happening in Prague. Lifetimeliberty.com, code FTL20. Let's go to Sarah in New Mexico, and then we'll continue with the World Economic Forum vision. Go ahead, Sarah.
Yes, so they're going to do that. They want to do that prisoner swap with that basketball player, Grinder. But
who is they?
The U.S.
The Russians.
And the Russians?
U.S. and the Russians. Yes, they wanna They wanted that basketball player in exchange for a Russian prisoner, but I was more fascinated with the person that they want.
Wait a minute, hold on. The U.S. has a Russian prisoner?
We have to have.
No, the Russians have the basketball.
Yeah,
the lesbian.
But who's the
player?
What Russian prisoners do the Americans have? Does the U.S. have?
That's what I'm intrigued with. They made a movie about this guy. He was the one that handled all the bombs. He's the one that's why they want him back. And somebody made a movie about his life.
Whose life?
Well, about the prisoner that they want. This is the Russian prisoner that they want in exchange for the basketball player.
Okay, so you don't know this guy's name?
Okay, so I found something here. This is a month-old story from Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Brittany Griner is a WNBA superstar, so she's a basketball pro. She's being used as a pawn, they say, by Russia, which has imprisoned her for allegedly being caught carrying vape cartridges with marijuana oil. Should the United States government play politics in return with a prisoner exchange involving the release of the so-called Merchant of Death? The man in question here is named Victor Bout, or Bout, B-O-U-T, and he is known for being portrayed by Nicolas Cage in the film Lord of War.
Bout is in the middle of his 25-year sentence in federal prison after he was convicted of conspiracy to kill Americans relating to the support of a Colombian terrorist organization.
So this seems like old news at this point. Apparently this woman is on trial right now. According to an updated story, this is from The Guardian, and it was published just a few days ago. Brittany Griner is now on trial in Russia on these drugs charges.
Arrested like 1 week before the stupid Ukraine invasion. How do you like that? How do you like that look? A lot of people think that it's actually a message. Russia was sending a message to the U.S.
Well, it's certainly not accidental, right? I mean, they knew when they arrested this WNBA, what did they call her, superstar, that they knew that, it was going to make the Americans unhappy.
I don't think you're a superstar in any sport unless people who are not fans of that sport recognize your name. I don't think you can qualify as a superstar.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in the WNBA is a superstar.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't want to, smash these people who they've made this their career, but aren't you making like $40,000 a year or something like that? If I remember correctly, WNBA is not the NBA.
Yeah, if I've never heard of you, you're probably not a superstar, right?
Like Serena Williams.
I've heard of that person. Yeah, I've heard of Michael Jordan.
Tiger Woods.
You hear of some of these people. But I guess we're hearing about her now.
Okay,
so,
that's fair.
The fact that she got
arrested. She's a superstar.
She's a superstar.
She's the superstar of getting arrested for marijuana in Russia.
But will we remember her name in 2 hours?
Yeah, but the thing is that what's more important is that she, like you say, I don't think she was all that valuable. The person that they want is a lot more valuable.
Yeah, there's no way in hell they're going to hand over the Lord of War in exchange for some girl that had some marijuana for allegedly.
It's a 25-year sentence. He's in half of it, and they're talking about giving her 10 years.
10 years in prison.
Hold on. Conspiring with a terrorist organization to kill Americans, he gets sentenced to 25 years?
Yeah.
While Ross Ulbricht is in 2 life sentences plus 40 years?
This is why people don't like the
court system.
The court system in this country.
I know. I just want to draw particular attention to this. That, the Lord of War, 25 years in prison.
The Merchant of Death.
The Merchant of Death. Ross Ulbricht ran a website, 2 life sentences plus 40 years.
To me, the most important aspect of this story, and I did hear something about this person being arrested, is that there's actually people in the U.S. government calling for her release, while at the same time, the U.S. government has not just Ross Ulbricht, but tens of thousands of people behind bars on similar charges. There are a ton of people in the federal prison system who are there for completely nonviolent, quote-unquote criminal acts.
For selling pot across interstate borders or something.
Or just transporting, or going into an airport like this person did and getting caught trying to put a bag of marijuana on a flight. There's people in this prison system here in the United States who, many of them are probably in prison for longer than 10-year sentences. And these officials, quote unquote, in the U.S. have the gall to demand this woman be released. I'm not saying she shouldn't be. I think she should.
Yeah, but they should release the others here in the United States as well.
Get the plank out of your own eye first before you worry about what's going on half a world away.
But Putin.
Yeah.
He's bad.
Bad.
He's the new Nazi. He's the new Hitler.
I would also point out that if the United States did release all of its nonviolent drug offenders, then it would actually have, a credible leg to stand on.
It would have a moral position from which they could come from.
You say, hey, look, you're wrongfully imprisoning this person and we won't stand for it. Instead of like, hey, we want to put that person in prison. Turn her over to us.
Yeah. So that's what's going on. Thank you, Sarah, for bringing that story to the forefront. I do appreciate hearing from you. I don't think you're going to see that swap happen.
Who knows? Maybe.
It's going to happen.
or maybe. Well, I mean, it's the big ask, right? I mean, Putin's like, or Russia's like, what's the biggest ask we can try to sell here or buy here? Let's go for the Merchant of Death.
I don't know why they would want the Merchant of Death.
It's their guy. I think.
I'm sure the U.S. has plenty of Russian spies that they've captured.
Well, they asked for the Merchant of Death, and maybe they'll get one of their embassy dudes that got sucked up during the. I don't know.
We got more on the World Economic Forum coming up here, and there's this vision that they've put out there in 2016.
I wanted to look and see how far we've come along. I'm not convinced we're anywhere near their 2030 expectations. In fact, I'm just going to say no.
I mean, I really hope we do get to the free energy part. I think that'd be pretty sweet.
And clean.
We'll continue with that here in moments. We'll get more of their vision, and you can share your thoughts as well here on Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nina Maria Potts with the latest world news. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is clinging to power after a tumultuous day in politics. Chancellor Rishi Sunak and Health Secretary Sajid Javid dramatically resigned from cabinet within minutes of each other. A number of junior government members have also resigned. Many believe this is the beginning of the end for Boris Johnson. Health Secretary Sajid Javid sent a letter to Boris Johnson saying he can no longer serve the Prime Minister in good conscience. Moments later, Chancellor Rishi Sunak also resigned. He said his and the Prime Minister's approaches are fundamentally too different. This comes after it was revealed that Boris Johnson knew about complaints made over disgraced MP Chris Pincher's behaviour, despite promising to not have been aware before appointing him as the Deputy Chief Whip. Former Cabinet Secretary Michael Heseltine, who resigned from Margaret Thatcher's government in 1986, says Boris Johnson must now go.
But this is the end. Let me give you an example of the mood. I went to a public event in London this week. 12 people came up to me and said, what on earth is going to happen to the Tory party? It was like a sort of that awful moment when you have a boil before it bursts. The boil has now burst.
Lord Gavin Barwell was Chief of Staff to former British Prime Minister Theresa May and says it will be impossible for Boris Johnson to recover from the blows unleashed by the resigning members of its cabinet on Tuesday.
Millions of people in this country have been wondering how cabinet ministers have been able to go along with all of this, and at last two of them have seen sense, in my opinion, and said enough is enough. It may take a few days, it may take a few weeks, it may even take a few months. But yes, I think it is definitely the end.
The death toll in the Independence Day shooting in Chicago has risen to 7 after a parade goer succumbed to their injuries in hospital. Meanwhile, police have revealed that the suspect, 21-year-old Robert Crimo, was known to them and had been reported by family members over his threats to commit acts of violence. Our U.S. correspondent Simon Marks reports.
Police say Cremo planned the attack for weeks, and one of the reasons they could identify him so rapidly was because he was already known to them. Christopher Covelli with the Lake County Sheriff's Department.
A family member reported that Cremo said he was going to kill everyone, and Cremo had a collection of knives. The police responded to his residence. The police removed 16 knives, a dagger, and a sword from Cremo's home.
But officers concluded they had no cause to arrest him. Cremo went on to purchase 2 assault rifles and a set of pistols legally in the Chicago area and to plan the deadly July 4th assault. I'm Simon Marks in Washington.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join the show here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian,
Aria,
and Conan.
Don't forget, you can join us online, and you can help support Free Talk Live, as a number of our listeners have done. I think around 70 plus of them, so thank you to everybody, including Carlos, who is a Free Talk Live supporter of our AMPS program. Carlos joined as a platinum level supporter, which means he's doing at least $25 a month. We only ask for $5, so thank you big time, Carlos, for the support. You can go to amps.freetalklive.com, and you can do that there. That's amps.freetalklive.com. You can use your PayPal, you can use your debit card, your credit card through the Patreon that we have set up. Once again, it's amps.freetalklive.com. You get some cool benefits for doing that, and we definitely appreciate your support. That's amps.freetalklive.com. Conan, let's get back into the World Economic Forum, their vision of you owning nothing
and being happy. I'm going to skip
claim.
way on down because I wanted to go through these points and try to figure out what they think needs to happen before we get to this point. And basically, here the bottom line is free energy is very important. Driverless cars, lots and lots and lots of robots and lots of AI doing everything so that you don't even have to work.
So that's why
you could just stay home. You can play around in your garden. You can paint. You can make music. You can do all this stuff because everything is because the replicators are hard at work making everything for you. And I'm sorry, that's just stupid.
I mean, it sounds great, right? And I don't necessarily think it's going to happen, but if it. My concern with these people, I mean, I realize they have these great evil plans, right? This is how they want to direct the world.
We know that it's evil, but it's the last thing in their minds. They think that what they're doing is benevolent.
They believe they're doing good, and I'm fine with that. They're going to fail either way. Central planners always fail.
Always.
What these people are trying to do is they're just trying to centrally plan the next 40 to 50 years of society and human evolution, and to
take care of the cattle. Because that's how they see us, as cattle.
They always fail, but that doesn't mean they won't fail and hurt a lot of people when they try it.
But the cattle...
Starvation, it's coming.
But the cattle are going to do whatever the cattle want to do, and it doesn't matter what these particular people say.
Not all... when you're raising
there's a reason
sheep,
central planners always fail, man.
When you're raising sheep, you always cut their horns and you always get rid of the angry, nasty ones.
I understand that.
Those are the first ones you eat.
But humans aren't sheep.
We are being it's coming. There are more and more docile.
If central planning works, the
cattle.
Nazis would have been successful. The Chinese government would be successful.
Well, they did successfully exterminate millions of people. I mean, look at the Russian government, for instance, under communism. I mean, there were, I don't know how many millions, but it was more than the Nazis.
But all of their grand schemes collapse.
Sure.
Over and over and over again throughout human history, central planning just does not work.
All right, let's talk about the dissenters that you're going on about, because I'm going to.
You mean people like us?
Yes, I'm going to skip. Yeah. I'm going to skip way on down this article.
Well, we're just the fools who stick our necks out. The average person is not going to go along with this stuff either.
I think you'll have your conservative Christian types, and I think this is what this person is referring to in a second.
The mark of the beast types, right? Who don't want to get the chip or whatever implanted in their forehead.
Absolutely.
Right,
my biggest concern is all the people who do not live in our city. Those who lost on the way, those we lost on the way, those who decided that it became too much, all this technology, those who felt obsolete and useless when robots and AI took over big parts of our jobs. those who get upset with the political system and turned against it. They live different kinds of lives outside of the city. Some have formed little self-supplying communities. Others just stayed in the empty and abandoned houses in small 19th century villages.
It sounds just fine to me. I mean, great, right? Live
As I
and let
predicted,
live.
this is a city dweller's vision.
Yeah, absolutely. And the title says they're all right with not having privacy, but maybe not. Once in a while, I get annoyed about the fact that I have no real privacy. Nowhere I can go and not be registered. I know that somewhere everything I do and think and do and dream is being recorded. I just hope that nobody will use it against me.
This only bothers her some of the time.
Him. Wow.
Him, whatever. That would bother me all of the time.
Absolutely. Being on walking into a store and they immediately knew who I am and what to sell me.
All she can do,
Minority Report style.
All he can do is hope.
And he said even his dreams are monitored and registered.
That's crazy.
All in all, it's a good life.
No, it's not.
It's much better than the path we were on, where it became so clear that we could not continue with the same model of growth. We had all these terrible things happening: lifestyle diseases, climate change, the refugee crisis, environmental degradation, completely congested cities, water pollution, air pollution, social unrest, and unemployment.
And
we lost way too much people before we realized that we could do things differently.
Look, I'll give it to him. If you invent a free energy source, yeah, you can make all that stuff go away.
No, but here's the problem. When you provide everything for everybody, what are they going to do with themselves? Idle hands, man.
Want.
Idle hands do the devil's work.
That's what Christians say.
No, it's true.
That's to prevent
It is
teenagers
absolutely
from
true.
doing stuff in their bedrooms, man.
We need something to fight. We need.
No, people can make art. People can write stories. People can read, and I don't care if they have everything. If they have all the food and energy they want, they just sit there watching Netflix.
When
I don't
everything
care.
is being provided for you, you just become a lazy fat slob. And the next thing you know, you're just laying in. That's not good for society.
I mean, obviously, you can do whatever you want. It's your life. It's your body. But I got to agree with Conan on this one. I mean, if you care about people generally, you don't want them to become lazy, fat slobs.
If they're happy, and they're fine with the reduced lifespan and all that, I don't care. Let them do what they want.
And there's the end of society as we know it, because fat slobs who can't get off the couch are never going to make babies.
No, exactly. It's the end of the fat slobs. It's
And
not
that's
the end
why
of
the
life as
people-
we know
I
it.
see a lot of fat people. It seems like they're making babies just fine.
But health-wise, I mean, they might not be long-lived. If they're dying at 35 and 40 because their hearts are exploding.
So this problem will fix itself. The skinny people out there, the healthy ones out there in the villages, they'll continue procreating. Society will fix itself. It's nothing to worry about.
And I'm not worried about it. The pendulum will swing back. The human cockroach, as Al Pacino called us, is going to survive this meltdown. It's very resilient. But every now and then there's the 80-year cycle. I'm sorry, weak men create hard times, and that's where we're at.
Does he continue after the point that you just
No,
showed?
that's it.
The end of it?
That's it. We need robots. We need AI. We need clean energy. And we need something taking care of all the jobs for us. And
It's
to
also
get to this
crazy,
point,
though.
not happening in 8 years.
Being like, we just need free, clean energy. Okay, yes, if you solve the problem that is scarcity and suddenly no one has any desires or needs whatsoever, sure. If you create paradise on earth, things will be fine. But you can't just start at your assumptions at that particular point.
Even if we could get all of our energy from, say, the sun, you're still going to have solar panels that are going to need to be manufactured and installed and replaced. And if we don't have robots doing that, there is no such thing as free energy. It will never be free.
Can we get into the 8 things?
Here are the actual 8 predictions.
Is this written by someone else?
This is written. This is straight off. This is from Sari Parker, who is
Sari.
She's also a contributor. For the World Economic Forum. This is from the World Economic Forum. So number 1 on the list of predictions
by 2030.
By 2030.
Okay.
When 2030 rolls around, these things will be in place.
Implemented. Okay.
Is this recent or is this the?
This is also from 2016. Okay. This is their rollout. Number 1, all products will have to become services, just like that other guy said.
I don't know what that means.
Some of these
I understand games as a service.
Food being delivered to you is a service. Your car being...
No, because there's still a product there.
They've added the service of delivery to the product. In
Now,
that case,
I'll give you, like, games as a service is a thing that exists now, where you don't own the games, you pay for the subscription fee to
And
like
that
Microsoft
sucks.
Xbox or whatever.
Because if they turn it off, then
Well,
you've
they
got
don't
no
even have
more
to turn it off.
games.
They don't support this game next month, right? And you can't do anything about it because it's a
Or you get
service that you're
banned.
paying for. You
Or
don't
maybe
actually have that game.
Or maybe they decide they don't want you to play games anymore, and then you get banned from that. But I imagine they're going to get specific with what they mean by this, right?
Appliances, clothes, the house that you live in, the car that you drive. You don't own any
They're
of it.
talking about renting it.
It's all. You don't even rent it. It's all. It's the robots are taking care of everything, but all these things are provided for you as a service. Food, I guess, because you actually
But it's
consume
a product, not a service.
Food is a product, but the car that you don't own that everyone uses,
That's a service.
That's a
I can see
service.
that. There's more coming up here.
Don't worry about things you can't control. Isn't that what they always say? But it's about impossible to avoid worrying about what's going on these days. The government has used the war on guns, the war on drugs, and the war on terrorism to tear our Bill of Rights to shreds. But you can fight back. The 10th Amendment Center has proven it, racking up major victories. For example, when the U.S. government claimed authority in the NDAA to have the military kidnap and detain Americans without trial, the nullifiers got a law passed in California, declaring the state's refusal to ever participate in any such thing. Their latest project is offnow.org, nullifying the National Security Agency. They've already gotten model legislation introduced in California, Arizona, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Kansas, meant to limit the power of the NSA to spy on Americans in those states. We'd be fools to wait around for the U.S. Congress or courts to roll back Big Brother. Our best chance is nullification and interposition on the state level. Go to offnow.org, print out that model legislation, and get to work nullifying the NSA. The hero Edward Snowden has risked everything to give us this chance. Let's take it. Offnow.org.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Yep, it's Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you in the studio, it's Ian,
Aria,
and Conan.
Lots that we've covered here tonight. If you missed a moment of the show, you can always go download it over on our website, freetalklive.com. You can also subscribe via our RSS feeds, aka our podcasts. You go to feeds.freetalklive.com. You'll find links to those feeds there. You'll also find links to some of the major platforms on which you can easily subscribe to the show. And it's free to do that, by the way. You'll get every episode as they are released right into your favorite podcast client. So head over to feeds.freetalklive.com. As we go to the phones here, back to the World Economic Forum, 8 things that they want to shove down our throats. But first, Jack in Washington. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're shoving that down our throats. I think there's going to be, I don't know who it was, they said that countries that survived, I think it was Mark, for hundreds of years fall within a month. And I think when that dollar collapses and the whole earth is based on the American dollar, the collapse is going to turn into, is our society prepared? They've been preparing us for the apocalypse for how long? All these movies, The Living Dead, I mean, go endless for. And
well, the whole world isn't built around the dollar, right? Only part of the world is.
But he's making a good point. I mean, there is a lot of reliance on the dollar globally, and when and if the dollar falls, it's going to hurt a lot of people.
And by the way, I wouldn't say they've been preparing us for any of this. They've been warning us. But watching a post-apocalyptic Mad Max type movie isn't preparing you for being able to survive any of this. You're gonna die.
Well, if that's a 200-year-old movie or a
100-year-old movie, Metropolis maybe.
Yeah, it's, and then you have Citizen Kane. I mean,
Well, I'm not sure what you're trying to say here.
I think there's a lot of
Are you taking survival tips from Hollywood?
No, I'm saying no, not at all. I'm just saying that something's going to happen. Dollar drops. Are these people going to be as prepared as they think they are? They're not.
Well, I mean, no, certainly not. The average person out there is not going to be prepared at all. I mean, 60 to 70%, I don't remember the exact number, but most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. They're drowning in debt. I think it was something like $60,000 was the average American's debt. I mean, that's including children, right, who don't have houses and things like that. So, no, they're not prepared at all for a collapse of the dollar. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They're drowning in debt. They don't have anything saved up. They don't even have a full tank of gas, man. These people are going to die.
Worse. It's getting worse for sure. Thank you, Jack.
Especially if you live in the cities, like this visionary, this World Economic Forum visionary wants everyone to be. They
live in a city.
Because if you don't, you're one of the discontents.
And within a month, all of those people, with the true collapse of the dollar, within a month, all of those people in New York City, half of them are dead.
Thank you, Jack, for the call tonight. I appreciate it. Let's get back into this 8 things the World Economic Forum wants to see by 2030.
Number 1, all products or services. Yes, Aria Food is a product, but the guy delivering it to you, or the robot, delivering it to your house, or the drone is part of the service. It's part of the package. It's part of the app.
I think that means something different, and I'm going to have to give it some more thought. But that's like saying that, the Uber driver bringing me dinner or whatever, that makes my food a service or whatever. No, the service is the delivery of it, but there's still a product there. They're saying there will be no product. And I want to know what mechanism they're using to make that claim, because I think about games as a service.
If a human being isn't actually growing those roaches, they aren't growing those crickets, it's a robot that's doing it all. Maybe you could classify it as more of a service than a product, because I mean it's not really something that was created by hands-on.
I think we should continue on this list.
Number 2, there will be a global price on carbon, and they've been talking about this forever and ever.
This is a government tax.
It's a new tax.
Well, of course they do. We're carbon-based life forms, and they want to control all life on the planet.
It's just one more tax that they're heaping on top of all the other taxes.
Yeah, okay.
It's just another level of control.
That one I can see them implementing. That's easy for them to do.
Because they're already doing it in some countries. Number 3, U.S. dominance is over. No more superpowers. There's just going to be a bunch of little small governments that.
I hope that one comes true. I mean,
yeah.
that'd be great.
Except they're going to be controlled by.
Do it by November, please.
By these elites. By the elites that are calling these shots as we speak.
I can't help but make that joke every single time. I mean, I just can't.
Hospitals, hospital technology, no more. Everything's going to be printed. They're going to be printing organs.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
It's fine, yeah.
I mean, if I lose an arm or something like that, go to the hospital, have them grow me a new one.
I think that's great. And if you've got a bunch of people on waiting lists for organs that they have to get from another human body, if they can just generate those things, then that's fantastic. And the price will come down.
And it's not actually in this article, but there'll be a vaccine for everything.
And I mean, if you get some open source nanobots that you can like inject and they go through like shooting bad cholesterol in your veins or whatever,
That'd be cool.
I'm also good with that as long as it's open source, right? Because I don't trust what the medical industry would have. But
and it's also not in this article, but everyone's going to be chipped so that they can monitor you. They can monitor all of your organs, your vitals. So you're just walking down the street, and they know when you're going to have a heart attack.
So
they can send you a text saying, "Hey, look, you need to stop."
They know what you're buying. They know where you're going. Next one.
Number 5. We are eating much less meat because what are we eating?
Bugs.
We're eating bugs.
I want to hear this one. Do they have like a description?
Rather like our grandparents, we will treat meat as a treat rather than a staple. Professor of Population Ecology at the University of Leeds, UK says.
Is that true?
It won't be a big agriculture or little artisan producers that win, but rather a combination of the two with a convenience food redesigned to be healthier and less harmful to the environment. They don't actually say bugs, but you know that's what's coming. Or they're paste. They're
Soylent.
Genetically grown in a laboratory food paste.
Mm-hmm. Like they have it in The Matrix. Remember the scene in The Matrix where
that wasn't even meat. It was like
no, it wasn't
grains.
meat. It was like a slop. It was like a gruel.
Yeah.
I want to turn back to this.
That may or may not taste like tasty wheat.
That's right.
But that doesn't seem accurate. Like my grandfather, I can't imagine him living in a time where he couldn't. They had local butchers and stuff like that going all the way back to the 40s.
Sure,
it's not like meat was some scarce thing that people didn't have every single day. They could and they did.
Maybe during the Depression.
Yeah, sure, but that was unique in itself. But yeah,
but they ate a lot of produce too, especially grains. That's really how civilizations thrive.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is obviously a push that they are working on. They're trying to normalize things like eating bugs. They want to push veganism and things like that. And it's just, again, this is one of those hard ones that it's going to be hard to push on the people outside of the cities. I don't think it's going to work. I mean, I love eating meat. It's delicious and satisfying. And I'm sorry, I like veggies too, but they don't satisfy in the same way.
I'm not really happy with some of the nutrient facts that come from the bugs and from the soy products that they're creating, these not a meat burgers and whatnot. I don't think they're really healthy at all.
See, I haven't even gotten that far because I ate a salad for lunch and that was it, right? And I've been hungry since, knowing that if I had just had a burger or something like that, I wouldn't be hungry now. There's just something about the meat hits differently.
Yeah, the protein.
It satiates.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Number 6, and I don't know why they are focusing on Syrians, but today's Syrian refugees, 2030's CEOs. So I guess that was 2016's refugee. There are plenty. There are plenty of refugees throughout the globe. So I mean, I don't know why.
I don't know if refugees are as likely, but it's definitely true that immigrants, people who choose to move to a place, are more likely to be entrepreneurs and more likely to be of that particular mindset. They start businesses more often than native-born Americans.
But they also cause problems too, that they don't get off their tushes, and they don't.
Well, most people who choose to move here have the intent.
Well, refugees are usually being forced out. And
that's what I'm saying. I'm not so sure if it applies.
The next thing you know, they're living underneath the bridge, and it's causing problems.
Well, they didn't choose to be refugees for the most part. They just had to escape one terrible situation for one where they weren't at risk of being blown up by the U.S. government.
Right. Number 7, the values that built the West will have been tested to the breaking point. And I guess, if I remember correctly, this is really blaming democracy for a lot of the issues, a lot of problems. The
World Economic Forum wouldn't blame democracy. They love that stuff.
The U.S. Republic and the way that it operates and works is basically it's had its day and its time, and it's time to try something different.
Well, that's certainly the narrative they will put forward. But I mean, monarchy has had its day as well, and it's time to put forth something different.
We would agree that it should be something different, but I don't think we would agree on what.
Yeah, I don't want Klaus Schwab being the president of the globe.
or his buddies or anybody.
Or any of his buddies.
We don't need any more presidents ever again.
It's time to try freedom.
Yeah. That's what will make true prosperity, true
Number
long-term.
8. This will make some of you sci-fi guys happy. By the 2030s, we will be ready to move humans toward the red planet. Woohoo! Which is another...
Seems a bit too soon.
Which is another stupid prediction in my book. I don't even think that... let's go to the moon first. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it seems inevitable that humans will get off of Earth.
Let's get out of the Van Allen radiation belt. Prove that to me that we can do this and go back to the moon or to the moon for the first time, however you look at it, before we start talking about Mars. Come on, man.
Yeah, that's not happening by 2030. If there's even anyone on the moon by 2030, I'd be shocked. Because remember, governments are in charge of space.
Supposedly they're launching missiles into the moon.
See you tomorrow online. In the meantime, freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone? You forgot